subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
YouTube's words are decisive, full of unquestionable determination. At the same time, Hueco Mundo, in a palace that is all gray and white and covers an extremely large area. On top of the tall throne, a man with an expressionless face, cold and arrogant eyes, and a trace of brown hair hanging on his forehead, looked at the figures below, and the huge cut mark that extends to the end of the line of sight and cannot be seen at a glance. Even if many days have passed, that cut mark will never fade. Even if Minos Grande enters, he will be instantly strangled to pieces by the endless sharpness filled inside. That was Kuchiki Qianye, thousands of miles away, a warning to Aizen and to all of Hueco Mundo. Lord Aizen, Espada assembled. Ikamaru Jin stood under the throne. Behind him were the 10 people who had been summoned blade. Except for Coyote Stark, Ulquiorra, the other Espada members were transformed from Minos Grande by Aizen using Hijin after they gained the power of Shinigami. In daily life, except for the bone mask on part of the body, the rest of the body looks no different from Shinigami. My own strength has also broken through the previous limits. It has reached an extremely high level. Every Espada member, they are all comparable to captain-level warriors. In fact, the top 3 Espadas are among the best, even among captains. This is the first batch of subordinates Aizen has acquired when he came to Hueco Mundo. Ikamaru Jin squinted his eyes and looked at Aizen above, his fists clenched unconsciously. Before, what a great opportunity. But Kuchiki Qianye, I don't know what to think. Even with such power, he was unable to completely solve Aizen. If he came to Hueco Mundo to hunt down Aizen, I'm afraid Aizen Suk would be dead by the sword now. If Aizen is given a chance to fuse with Hijin in the future, even if Kuchiki Qianye takes action himself, he may not be Aizen's opponent. Above, Aizen leaned casually on the throne, with a panoramic view of Ikamaru Jin's performance below. Experienced the Soul Society battle. His left ear lost hearing forever, and Shia Palace was completely severed in two. But Aizen's expression was unmoved. His eyes were like a cold pool. No one could see through it. Now, he kept the Ikamaru Jin. I'm just curious about how Ikamaru Jin will kill him. And, as a hero, all kinds of indifferent feelings were left behind by him. Kuchiki Qianye, letting him go, is definitely not an act of cowardice or bending the law for personal gain. The only way to explain it, that is, Kuchiki Qianye is not loyal to the Spirit King. I want to use his hand to completely eradicate the spiritual palace. In this case, it is not unacceptable to be taken advantage of by you. A smile appeared on Aizen's lips. He didn't seem to care at all that he had been used as a pawn by Kuchiki Qianye. Aizen-sama, these are all the images from Soul Society. Below, the 4th Espada, Ulquiorra. On the light screen in front of him, the various encounters of Kurosaki Ichigo and his group after entering Soul Society were repeatedly played. But videos about Aizen, Kuchiki Qianye, and the subsequent war are absolutely secret to Soul Society, and not even Hueco Mundo can find out about them. The images of Kuchiki Qianye fighting against Inoue Orihime, Ishida Yuryu, and Kurosaki Ichigo also disappeared. But even so, that's enough. After watching for a while, Aizen's eyes narrowed, and he looked at a woman with orange-red hair, a decent figure, who looked like a student, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. Only, there was no warmth in his eyes. Dun Shun Luhua, this is the ability to blaspheme the gods. It will also be of great help in restoring Hijin. Aizen points to the image of Inoue Orihime and looks down at Espada. I want her next moment. Espada 4, Ulquiorra. On the 10th day of Espada and Yami, they left Shuya Palace and went to the present world through the Black Cavity. Now, this world, Qianye Entertainment City. Kuchiki Qianye looked at a cautious schoolgirl with orange-red hair and a figure ready to show off in front of her, and lazily took a sip of her wine. Sir Qianye, I don't have any money to pay you back at the moment. Can I work here? Inoue Orihime looked worried. To know, the man in front of him has a captain-level combat capability. If I break something in his house, I have to pay 1,000,000 rings. I can't even afford to pay for selling her. And Ishida Yuri, who is also his father, sold most of his family property to pay off all the 1,000,000 rings. Yes, the wages here are very generous. You only need to work for 100 years to pay off your debts. Phasian said with a smile. What? 100 years? Inoue Orihime's eyes widened. 100 years. I'm afraid she's already dead. What else can I use to repay the debt? Don't worry. Even after you die, your soul will go to Soul Society and you can continue to work at Kuchiki's house. Wai Phasian still had a smile on her face, but she looked a little sinister. Above, Kuchiki Qianye also nodded slightly, leaving all management to Phasian, and he could be the hands-off shopkeeper with peace of mind. But, next moment, Kuchiki Qianye lazily raised his head and gently shook his wine glass. Qianye Entertainment City is still crowded with people. Whether it is human beings in this world or Soul Society's Shinigami, Qianye Entertainment City is their best entertainment place. But two uninvited guests came. Dividing line new books are on the shelves. Please give me flowers and please subscribe. 071. He only made a slight move and it was already as spot as limit. Lord Qianye. Not long after, Inoue Orihime, Rukia, and Hijin all felt the two unusual auras. He frowned and looked out the window. I saw two extremely powerful Ryatsu pierce heaven and earth. The walls of the entire Qianye Entertainment City trembled and the chandeliers were shaking. This kind of Ryatsu, it's not Shinigami, it's not a hollow either. This is a brand new Ryatsu. A thin trickle of sweat ran down Rukia's forehead. At least captain-level Ryatsu. Even stronger, the guests in Entertainment City also stood up in surprise because their minds were blank. Earthquake. Let's go. Suddenly, after the earth trembled and Phasian opened the barrier to expel humans, the entire Entertainment City was empty in just a moment. The originally noisy and lively Qianye Entertainment City suddenly became deserted. In the top box, Rukia pulled out Zanpakutō, Inoue Orihime, and also put her hand on the hairpin, with a serious look on her face. Even Kuchiki Qianye looked calm. The two of them also made plans to take action. They couldn't leave everything to Master Qianye to solve, even though the opponent we faced was captain level. But Kuchiki Qianye, just sitting there, gave them an indescribable and powerful sense of security, as if a lighthouse on the ocean, a safe house in the wasteland. The ruins of an abandoned factory. Several figures stood up directly and looked solemnly in the direction of Qianye Entertainment City, not far away. This kind of breath. It's Aaron, that's right. The thin man with yellow hair frowned slightly. Hirako, should we? Loli, who had two pigtails on her side and looked very saucy, looked at Hirako Shinji with a Zanpakutō slung across her back. It looks very sassy. Other people, they all looked over. But that direction is the Kuchiki family's Qianye Entertainment City. If Kuchiki Qianye is there, even if Aaron comes, he will have to walk around without food. A man with short silver hair and well-defined muscles looked at the direction of Ryatsu's explosion with a determined expression. Muguruma Kensei, former captain. On the side, there are Yadumura Lisa, Hachijin, Torabashi RJR, members of the Masked Legion. Come over right away. This may be another conspiracy of Aizen. There are too many Kuchiki family properties. Even Kuchiki Qianye may not be there now. Furthermore, Aaron's power is not comparable to that of ordinary Shinigami. Although Qianye is the peak captain, he may not be able to resist two Aaron's. Hirako Shinji's voice was cold. Others also nodded. Being in this world, there was no news, and only a few days had passed since the Soul Society War. It has not been passed down to the present world. It's also unclear how powerful Kuchiki Qianye has become now. And, after becoming Aaron, their strength has been greatly improved. The power they exert is simply several times that of before. Each one has received a brand new transformation. But the price they paid was extremely heavy. They were no longer Shinigami, but freaks who possessed the Emperor of Hollow Power. Decades ago, in Rukongai, it was that guy Aizen who turned their masked army into Arrancar. If it weren't for Urahara Kisuke's research, they would have lost their minds and turned into soul-devouring monsters. Anything related to Aizen will receive the worst blow from the Masked Legion. Next moment, whoosh, several cracks in the air sounded. The ruins of the factory suddenly became empty, and no one could be seen anymore. Now, Qianye Entertainment City. It was completely empty, with only colorful neon lights still flashing at night. Originally lively nightlife. With the arrival of the two uninvited guests, everything became quiet. Next moment, two figures rushed out of Qianye Entertainment City. It was Rukia holding Sodi no Shirayuki, and Inoue Orihime holding the shield Shunrika hairpin. In the box, Kuchiki Qianye held up the wine glass and shook it gently. This was a strong drink from the east, and his mouth was filled with memories. But the Shinigami world is not a sphere like Blue Star. Even in this world, it is more similar to a flat world. My wish to go home and have a look could not be realized. Now, the universe has completely merged with him. Even though no Bankai, it can also form a stress protection on the body's surface. Any attack at captain level or below can trigger an instinctive warning before it reaches his body, shattered to pieces by the extremely sharp blade. Outside world, several people confront each other. The atmosphere was solemn and extremely tense. The huge Ryatsu kept beating like a wave, and all living creatures for dozens of miles around were breathless. My back was wet with cold sweat. Ordinary people. Even if I look out the window, I can't see anyone. I can only feel the unspeakable fear. But Kuchiki Qianye was still leaning lazily on the soft sofa, looking at the people outside expressionlessly. The wine enters the throat. Phasian on the side was massaging his shoulders. Outside the window, unobstructed view. Two Arrancars. One is thin and the other is strong and fat. Ulquiorra. He has short black hair, pale skin, and green eyes. There are dark green Arrancar lines on the face that resemble tear stains. Its Espada number 4 is engraved on the left chest, and the virtual mask is located on the left half of the head, in the shape of a horned helmet. He has a calm personality and rarely changes his expression. Guei Run is a black-winged demon who can rain black rain from the sky and has jet black wings growing out of his back. He is also the only Arrancar among the Espadas who can kill in the second stage. In the original work, it is also a good material for Kurosaki Ichigo to gain experience. I fought with Kurosaki Ichigo many times, and was finally defeated and killed by the bullhead Ichigo form in Shiya Palace. But now, Kurosaki Ichigo has lost the power of Shinigami and Hollow, and bullhead Ichigo has become his swan song. In another, Yami, it has dark skin and black hair, and is characterized by a very large body. There are 4 strangely shaped protrusions on the top of his head, and symmetrical red Madara lines on both cheeks. The remaining virtual mask behind Arrancar is on the chin, and the position similar to the virtual hole in the mandible is in the center of the chest. His Espada class number is engraved on his left shoulder, and the number can change from 10 to 0 while in hibernation. He is also the protagonist of the saying, in Espada, it is not 1 to 10, but 0 to 10. But, although he can become a zero blade, but even if he returns to 0, his combat effectiveness is only ranked first without Arrancar, Espada. If Stark or Berrigan and others return, they can still crush him. In the original work, he had a violent and irritable personality and was later beaten to death by Byakuya Kuchiki and Zaraki Kenpachi's mixed tag team. Master Qianye, is it okay? On the side, Phasian frowned slightly and looked out the window worriedly. Although she has many talents, such as piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting, she has no ability to fight. But Kuchiki Qianye just took a sip of wine lazily and did not answer. Subordinates, or servants. If you give up fighting, what's the difference between it and a parasite? Rukia's actual combat experience is too weak compared to the captain level, while Inoue Orihime is too kind, even a bit holy lady, both people have certain flaws. This battle is also an opportunity for them to grow up. Right here, she's the person you requested, Aizen-sama. Aside, Yami grinned with a ferocious smile and stared at Inoue Oraheim. The Ryatsu on his body suddenly surged, as if a heavy rain was coming and a flash flood was sloping. Ulquiorra, on the other hand, didn't say a word, like a machine following programmed instructions. Move quickly and go back early. It's not safe in this world. Ulquiorra's tone was solemn. It is said, one of Soul Society's top forces and one of Kuchiki Qianye's palaces is the Qianye Entertainment City. But, good thing, Kuchiki Qianye has more than one palace, located in Soul Society and the present world. As long as you are lucky, you can still catch Inoue Oraheim and go back early. Yami nodded heavily. Zero, in front of him, a huge energy light wave condensed. This is Minos Grande's method. It has extremely powerful destructive power. Build a shield for 3 days. The noodles created by Aizen are so powerful. In the dark corner of the building, 8 figures looked at the sky from a distance, sensing the huge energy within Zero. He frowned deeply. They all have numbers on them. 1 is 4, prosperous. This means that there are at least 10 such strong men. The one who took action was just the 10th one. So how powerful must the first one be? Saragaki Hiyori's pupils shrank slightly and looked not far away. The 2 small figures struggled to resist, and there were Ryatsu, Zero, and huge flesh and blood impact everywhere, as well as the dancing ice flowers of Sodi, no Shiryuki, and the orange shield that appears from time to time. Oops, they can't hold it any longer. Hirako Shinji pulled out Zanpakutō and wanted to rush forward. In his sight, although Rukia and Inoue Oraheim fought hard, they seemed to be crumbling under the attack of the 2 Aaron cars. It's reached the point where the oil is exhausted. But, next moment, an ordinary and lazy figure appeared in the field, holding a bottle of fragrant white wine in his hand. On his body, he was wearing sunglasses, a floral shirt, and just a pair of slippers on his feet. It seems, just like a young master who is on vacation, there is no threat at all. Muguruma Kensei, Hirako Shinji, and Torabashi Arjar opened their eyes wide and exclaimed, Kuchiki Qianye. As captain, they have all seen with their own eyes Kuchiki Qianye, the #1 genius of Soul Society and a master of the strongest Zanpakutō. Kuchiki Qianye aside, Saragaki Hiyori, Yuduma Elisa, and others look confused. It's normal that you haven't seen him before. He only became captain after we left Soul Society. However, when he was at the Central Spiritual Arts Academy, he was able to take a blow from Captain Yamamoto. He was qualified to become a captain, but he just wants to lie down and fish every day. I didn't really take the post, but became the captain of the 2nd Division, only after several of our captains left Soul Society. The corners of Hirako Shinji's mouth curled up slightly. Even though Kuchiki Qianye has not made any progress in the past few decades, based on his previous strength, at least he will not lose to the 2 Aaron cars. It turns out that he is the #1 genius in Soul Society. Saragaki Hiyori, Yuduma Elisa, and others all exclaimed, their eyes widened, staring at the lazy man. From time to time, he is still seen taking a sip of wine. There is really no way. Connect such a person with the so-called first genius of Soul Society. A true genius shouldn't have a cold and arrogant face, care about nothing else except practice, and only want to become stronger. Could it be? Are all geniuses so unconventional and different from ordinary people? Qianye Entertainment City. The ground on the street was blown to pieces, and many buildings were reduced to rubble. But there's a large-scale formation to expel humans, but there are no repeated injuries. Fido, Yami shouted, and a huge beam of light, containing terrifying Ryatsu, rushed towards Rukia and Inoue Oraheim. Hateful, this strength has reached the captain level, and he is still a very powerful captain. Rukia held Sodi no Shiryuki tremblingly. Her forehead was already wet with cold sweat, and the Ryatsu on her body was also extremely weak, reaching the point where it was exhausted. Aside, Inoue Oraheim also collapsed weakly on the ground, breathing heavily, and the shield Shunrika on his head also lost its light. This is a sign of excessive consumption. The enemy in front of you. It's really too powerful. Even if you use all your strength, you can only support it for a few minutes. We only want the woman with orange hair. Ulquiorra looked down on her in all directions, looking coldly at the two women below, struggling to resist. But, next moment, a very lazy figure wearing a floral shirt suddenly appeared in the field, with his palms as if swatting flies. Shot directly above the huge Zero light beam. Boom! The entire light beam exploded to pieces. It turned into little stars and scattered in the wind. Night. They're all illuminated by the little bits of light and look beautiful. Kuchiki Qianye just looked at the two women behind them who were exhausted from the battle and waved their hands casually. After all-out fighting, he has grown a lot. Especially Inoue Oraheim, who has always been weak, acted much more decisively. A hero saves a beauty. Yami smiled ferociously, and her white teeth were like dense bones, revealing the smell of blood. The muscles on the body bulge, and Ryatsu explodes all over the body. The overall strength has even reached a new level. Yami leave aside. Ulquiorra's tone was solemn, and his brows were deeply furrowed on his always calm face as he stared at Kuchiki Qianye's figure. Although, Espada did not know what Kuchiki Qianye looked like. But the man in front of him looked so calm even when facing a powerful enemy. Either a madman or a real strong man. Don't be reckless. But, Fido, Yami shouted and threw a huge beam of light towards Kuchiki Qianye. He's just a Shinigami, with the errant car that breaks the limits. Immediately afterwards, return to the blade. Kill them, Jar. Roar, a wild beast-like cry, came out of Yami's mouth. The whole body expanded instantly. In just a moment, it reached a height of dozens of meters. This is his final destination. Use Yami's rage as a source of power. With 12 legs, his enemies are as small and weak as ants in his eyes. Although the movements of the body will become less flexible as the body becomes larger. However, as the body grows larger, its destructive power will also increase geometrically, which is enough to make up for the lack of flexibility caused by the huge body. The original number 10 on his body also changed to 10. Espada 0. D. Yami shouted angrily. He exploded with all his strength and charged hard towards Kuchiki Qianye. The earth is trembling. Even the starlight at night is distorted by this power. This blow is even enough to shake the space. But, next moment, the slender finger gently touched Yami's fist. Boom! Huge waves of energy are pouring out everywhere. Stratus collapsed, and large numbers of buildings were smashed into pieces. The extremely huge Ryatsu, like a pouring sea, swallowed everything up and destroyed it. Not long after, the smoke cleared. Kuchiki Qianye, still standing there as always, not even a wrinkle in his clothes. He only made a slight move, but it was already the limit of 1,000 swords. Dividing line. New books are on the shelves. Please give me flowers, and please subscribe. 072. The second stage returns to the sword. The Black-Winged Demon. Kuchiki Qianye, Director General, everything. Boom! A huge and majestic figure with 12 legs and a body like a vast sea of Ryatsu rose into the air and fell heavily into the distance, throwing up dust and sand in the sky. And that violent spiritual power is weakening at a speed that can be seen by the naked eye. A long time passed. Then he stood up unsteadily. Scarlet eyes were staring at the lazy figure in front of the entertainment city. Kuchiki Qianye. The pale-skinned Ulquiorra spoke solemnly, pulled out the Zanpakutō from his girdle, and pointed it straight at Kuchiki Qianye. Here, it is the property of the Kuchiki family to be able to appear here, and he is the only person left with such strength. Soul Society, one of the super strong ones. Only Lord Aizen can compete with it. Not to mention, although no one has ever dared to mention Lord Aizen's left ear, The answer to who did it is already clear. Yami, calm down. Ulquiorra put her palm on the shoulder of Yami, who was overwhelmed by anger and wanted to continue rushing forward. He shook his head gently, looking at that lazy figure with a calm gaze, his muscles all tense. Inoue Orihime, there will be opportunities for a rest in the future. Even as an espada, when facing an extremely powerful person, the most rational way is to retreat. Next moment, stab, the space was violently torn open, and a dark hole suddenly appeared, with a terrifying attraction coming from inside. Black accent. It is also Arankar, the transfer path to Soul Society and the present world, can lead directly to Shiya Palace. Walk! Ulquiorra shouted low, pulled Yami up, and rushed towards the inside of the black cavity. The sound of swords filled the sky. I saw Kuchiki Qianye finger tap. A terrifying and sharp sword light emitted a pure white light. The entire sky was dyed white. The space is being fragmented, making an overwhelming crunching sound. Just a moment, the white sword light came to the black cavity and chopped it into pieces instantly, broken into large pieces of space, cut off their last escape route. The scattered sword light rushed thousands of miles along the black cavity. It rushed straight to the Shiya Palace behind the black cavity. Kuchiki Qianye still looks calm. Want to run? Their goal is to kill Inoue Orihime, an employee of the Kuchiki family who has worked for 100 years. Inoue Orihime is gone. Who will pay back the money? How is it possible to come whenever you want and leave whenever you want? Hateful. Yami's whole body bursts in a blood-red aura. Ultimate's anger makes him even more powerful. The final form is like a demon in hell. The lower limbs and tail are covered with hair. There are 4 sharp horns on the top of the head, and there is also a pair of big horns on the back of 680. The attack power, such as wrist strength and spiritual power, is also increasing crazily. This is his final form, like a demon in hell, ferocious, violent, with a momentum to tear everything apart. Return to the blade. Moreover, his return blade is still strengthening. Hirako Shinji's pupils shrank slightly, and the other members of the masked legion also looked at Yami, who was returning to the sword, and their eyes widened. Return to the edge. That's a Shinigami with virtual power. With the Shinigami's powerful virtual ultimate killing move, the power could be increased several times, or even 10 times in an instant. And this Yami's return blade is different from the ordinary return blade. He can keep getting stronger. Every moment, we are becoming stronger. This is almost a rule. This is an ability that transcends the direct attack system. Roar! The huge Yami roared like a beast and rushed towards Kuchiki Qianye with its huge fist like a small attic. The oncoming strong wind, as well as the powerful Ryatsu that made the space tremble, messed up Kuchiki Qianye's hair. This is enough power to tear down mountains and cities. Powerful and powerful. Kuchiki Qianye spoke softly, gently raised a slender palm, and gathered all the strength in his body to complete it in an instant. Next moment. Usually only the arms are thick, but in Yami's eyes, they are like an offensive of thin bamboo sticks, coming in front of him instantly. Yami's pupils contracted violently, and wherever the force passed by, the space was shattered. That represents the ultimate power, the power that can tear apart space. Like a sharp knife inserted into tofu. Even though Yami has blocked the front, that beam of light is invincible. Concentrate and reach the top. The hard steel skin on his body and the extremely strengthened flesh were like shattered glass, shattering in an instant. The powerful force enters the body and does not penetrate directly. Instead, it turns into a terrifying energy like a wildly erupting volcano. Exploded instantly. Boom! The powerful shock wave spread crazily. Countless surrounding buildings were turned into fine powder. The surging air waves shot straight into the sky, blowing away straight as clouds. Disappear out of sight and in place. It was completely empty without any human beings, and only a large pit hundreds of meters deep could be seen. It gave off a burnt, pungent smell, and at the bottom of the big pit, There were only two residues of FF. Yami from behind. Ulquiorra watched all this in daze. Just now, Kuchiki Qianye's speed was too fast. Before he could take action, Yami was instantly killed. Is this the super strong man of Soul Society, the one who is feared by Lord Aizen? How terrifying. Ulquiorra raised her head and stared straight at the lazy figure. Even if you kill Yami, Kuchiki Qianye didn't even move a step. He was holding a bottle of wine in his hand. Not a drop of wine was spilled. It was useless to probe the nerves. Ulquiorra shook his head slightly. Exploring the nerves. It could detect the enemy's Ryatsu and strength very well, but it has no effect at all against that Kuchiki Qianye. In that case, Ulquiorra looked at the sky emotionlessly, and the sword of death disappeared in his hand. He has no heart. On weekdays, there are no emotional fluctuations. Even though Yami died in front of him, and he only felt a little regretful. Return to the blade. Second stage, return to blade. Black-winged demon. Boom. A huge Ryatsu suddenly bloomed. Everyone seems to feel that there is as heavy an ocean above their heads. As for Ulquiorra, her original figure suddenly changed. Two jet black wings sprouted from her back. There is dark liquid left in the eyes. The fingers change into bat-like claws. It's his second stage return. Even Aizen has never known or seen it. It is also Ulquiorra's biggest trump card. The night in the sky becomes darker. It's like a black-winged demon covering the sky and the sun, grinning at everyone from the sky, devouring everything, destroying everything. This is the second stage return blade. Hirako, Shinji, and others' eyes widened, and their bodies trembled slightly under this huge power. That kind of Ryatsu. It has surpassed the limit of the return blade. It has reached another level that is unreachable. Even, it has broken through the captain level and is second only to the overall captain level in strength. Even we can only do it once. Saragaki Hiyori's pigtails drooped down at the back, her eyes unblinking as she stared at the black-winged demon in midair. And that still lazy figure inside Qianye Entertainment City. Inoue, Oraheim, and Rukia, who had consumed too much, were leaning against the window, looking at the lazy figure below, as if nothing could make him hesitate at all. He is the top combat power of Soul Society, the super strong one. Black-winged demon, Kuchiki Qianye, looking at the black-winged demon above, the majestic figure, and the vast ocean-like Ryatsu, just yawned out of boredom. He casually took a sip of wine. Thunder spear above. Ulquiorra roared. A huge lightning spear was formed instantly. The space was distorted, and the huge Ryatsu was overflowing with madness, with the extremely manic and tyrannical power of thunder and lightning. This is his ultimate killing move. It can only be used in the second stage return blade form. It can exert its maximum power. Thunder breaks through the darkness. The green lightning spear rushed towards the lazy figure below. The majestic power is mixed with the roar of thunder. It seems like everything is being torn apart. The next moment, a Zanpakutō with black and red patterns all over the body, a golden handle, and the patterns on it are constantly twisting, like a swimming dragon, appears in Kuchiki Qianye's hand. Everyone present, everyone's attention was attracted by this knife. This is the end of all things. Jingshan Shixian, the most powerful sharp-type Zanpakutō who is famous all over the world. The blade groaned softly, and a pure white blade with bursts of blood-red lines penetrated the space and penetrated everything. Bang in the air, the lightning spear was cut off in just an instant. The huge thunder and lightning flashed crazily like sparks and fell. It fell to the ground and shattered large areas of streets. Every slightest lightning strike could create a pit of more than 10 meters. The smell of burnt food filled the place, and the sword light penetrated the thunder and lightning spear without stopping at all. He arrived in front of Ulquiorra in an instant. Not even a sound was made. It passed directly through her body, filling the distant sky. Midair, the figure of the black-winged demon. The upper part was stiff. The next moment, An extremely tiny crack opened from the middle, as smooth as a bright mirror. Boom! The two corpses fell heavily to the ground, splashing large amounts of dust. The sharpness reaches the limit, and it can cut off all things in the world. Even Espada's steel skin cannot stop the partition. It's no different than cutting a piece of paper. Ulquiorra's figure slowly dissipated and disintegrated, leaving only a ball of Ultimate's sharp aura in place. Face it all, Kuchiki Qianye, without giving it a second glance. The Zanpakutō in his hand gradually disintegrated, disappeared, and reintegrated into his body, and the earth-shattering, sharp aura on his body disappeared. He has regained his salty appearance. No one can tell that he is the strong man who just casually killed 2 Espada members. He actually reached this level. In a dark alley, Hirako Shinji, as well as the other members of the masked legion behind him, all opened their eyes with expressions of disbelief. Those 2 Arankars, an Arankar, who was among the top 10, was killed so easily. To know, there's also the 4th black-winged demon inside. In the hands of Kuchiki Qianye, he is no match for him. It seems that during the time we left, Kuchiki Qianye has not only not regressed, but has become stronger. Now he has surpassed the captain level and even reached the level of captain. Aside, Muguruma Kensei, Torabashi RJR, all side. Captain level powerhouse. In the entire Soul Society, for thousands of years, Yamamoto Jinrosai has appeared, a Raijin Jaka that burns the world and is the strongest Shinigami in 1,000 years. But now, Kuchiki Qianye broke the limits of Soul Society. It only took 100 years to reach this level. Future achievements. Just unimaginable. At the same time, Saragaki Hiyori, who wears 2 pigtails and looks SY, and Risa Umru, who wears glasses and is actually very coquettish. They all stared blankly at the lazy figure not far away. Since you're here, let's pay a visit. Hirako Shinji stood up and straightened his clothes. With his strength, he definitely discovered our existence. Now that Kuchiki Qianye's strength has reached the captain level, although the masked legion is not very interested in Shinigami, they still show absolute awe to such a strong man. At the same time, Matsumoto Ranjaku, a man with a fiery figure and blonde hair who was about to come out, also hurriedly ran here, looking at the broken walls on the ground, his eyes slightly dazed. She was the Shinigami in charge of Karakura Town during this time. Ryatsu noticed something unusual and rushed over in a hurry, but it only took less than 10 minutes. Those 2 evil Ryatsu disappeared without a trace. Is this Mr. Qianye? Matsumoto Ranjaku glanced at Qianye Entertainment City in awe. There, sitting at the heart of Soul Society, is the ultimate combat power. He is also the most powerful Kuchiki Qianye in the world. Only he can kill powerful enemies so easily and neatly. At this moment, the soul phone in her hand rang, with the latest instructions from Soul Society on it. Seeing the above content, Matsumoto Ranjaku's pupils contracted slightly. Kuchiki Qianye, the living general secretary. Now, Soul Society. Godai 13 headquarters. The influence of this world is constantly playing out. In the modern world, there are also intelligence personnel scattered around, and Qianye Entertainment City is home to a captain-level combat force. It is their top priority. The appearance of Ulquiorra and Yami, as well as their returning blades, without exception, announced the fact that Aizen has used Byakuya to transform a large number of Minos Grande into Arankar. But even they, in the hands of Kuchiki Qianye, he was like a child wielding a big stick. He was easily crushed and could not even move 10 steps. Although Kuchiki Qianye downplays it, he is already the captain. Each of these 2 Arankars has at least the peak captain-level combat power. Even after Ulquiorra returned to the second stage, he has broken through the captain level and moved towards a higher level. The average captain level is no match for him. Kairaku Shuinsue's expression was solemn. Below, Uno Hanaretsu, Byakuya Kuchiki, and others are also looking at Yamamoto Jinrosai above. In the venue, the sound of a needle dropping could be heard, and everyone was enveloped by a huge mountain. Although Kuchiki Qianye is still alive, but that doesn't mean that he will definitely take action. This time, he took action because Arrancar took the initiative to attack Qianye Entertainment City. After learning this lesson, those Arrancar operations will avoid Kuchiki Qianye. And with the character of Kuchiki Qianye, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni's eyes narrowed slightly, and Inleo's figure stooped a little. His Raijin Jaka, it is a large-scale attack. Although the destructive power is huge, even Bankai's full destruction can destroy the entire Soul Society. But everyone who has fought knows that it is just the destructive power and the ability to attack in a wide range. Compared to Kuchiki Qianye's extremely sharp and powerful ability to break through all phenomena, as well as the fact that he can apply all his combat power to his own body, become immune to control, and concentrate on reaching the pinnacle. Still too different. I announced that I will start practicing in seclusion from today. The acting commander-in-chief of Godiai 13 is Kairaku Shunsui, and Kuchiki Qianye is the living commander-in-chief. Yamamoto Jinrasai said softly, "The living commander-in-chief. It is in charge of all things in this world, human beings, Shinigami. As long as you are in this world, you have the highest authority. There is no need to deal with official business at all on weekdays. No one can make him take action." Equivalent to Kuchiki Qianye gained great power out of thin air, and he does not need to fulfill his obligations. Dividing line. New books are on the shelves. Please give me flowers, and please subscribe. 073. What? Aizen wants to learn Bankai? Retreat. Kuchiki Qianye serves as the living general secretary. As soon as the two big news came out, the expressions of everyone present instantly froze, and their minds went blank. To know, Yamamoto Jinrasai. In this millennium, he has no rival, and he himself is also the biggest face of Soul Society, the most famous and powerful person, strength. It has reached its peak. Such a character's retreat is a top priority for the entire Soul Society. And Kuchiki Qianye, serving as the current General Secretary, means that he has mastered all the power in this world. As long as he wants, you can completely get rid of Soul Society, rule in reality, and create your own kingdom. Yamamoto Jinryusai, this is so cruel. Everyone present. Everyone gasped. Captain, you. Kairaku Shuinsue's salty expression disappeared, and instead he had a look of urgent persuasion. But Yuan Liuzhai just waved his hand. I have made up my mind. Over the years, I have lost my determination to make progress. Thousands of years of comfort and the title of Soul Society's strongest man even blinded him. Until now. Only then can he face the gap between himself, Aizen, and Kuchiki Qianye. One Kaika Suigetsu can fool him around. If, in the future, if Aizen takes control of Hueco Mundo and takes action against Soul Society, there's a high probability that Kuchiki Qianye will remain on the sidelines. By the time, the person fighting against Aizen is still the captain, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni. Only this strength exists now. Is not enough. He wants to become stronger, perfect his martial arts to the ultimate. But would you not give another thought about Kuchiki Qianye below? The captain sighed softly and accepted Jinryusai's decision. But with Kuchiki Qianye's character, even if he becomes the current general secretary, he probably won't be able to do anything at all. He is the strongest, that's all. Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni shook his head slightly. Even though Kuchiki Qianye does nothing, but his existence itself is the most dazzling banner of Soul Society. Any opponent who wants to target Soul Society must consider Kuchiki Qianye's attitude. This world, Qianye Entertainment City, the living general manager, Lord Qianye, you have become the living president. Feijin, Rukia, and others looked at Matsumoto Ranjaku, who didn't seem to be joking in front of them. They all covered their mouths and looked at the lazy Kuchiki Qianye with clear eyes. And Matsumoto Ranjaku, with his explosive figure that is ready to come out, is also swaying in front of Kuchiki Qianye. As for the rear, Oraheim looked suspicious of life. Really, Kuchiki Qianye looks so young. Result: not only is he an extremely powerful person, he has also become the most powerful person in Soul Society. He is in charge of a whole world. Although Soul Society is the foundation of Shinigami, but reality is the source of endless supply of Shinigami. All authority in this important place is now under the control of Kuchiki Qianye. Regarding the significance of the current General Secretary, everyone present knew that as long as Kuchiki Qianye wanted to, he could create a country of his own. But on the sofa, Kuchiki Qianye just waved his hand indifferently and took a sip of wine. Current General Secretary? It's just a false name. Can it be drunk as wine? As long as the strength is in place, anything is within reach. Kuchiki Qianye saw it very clearly. Even if he became the director of reality, he would just turn over and continue drinking. There was no excitement that anyone expected. Should it be messed up or should it be messed up? But, Mr. Yamamoto, I was really stimulated this time. After all, in the original work, although Mr. Yamamoto is set to be the strongest Shinigami in 1,000 years, but his own record, it's very embarrassing. Except for killing some small characters like Fish, the duel against Aizen and Yawatch ended in defeat. Raijin Jaka, it's just a direct attack type Zanpakutō. In the later stages of the plot, there are countless rule map abilities. And when Aizen reaches Shinigami Ultimate's Ryatsu and Kaika Suigetsu, it also seems a bit unsatisfactory. It is natural to want to become stronger. Hueco Mundo. A huge cut mark crisscrossed the gray-white Shuya Palace into two even halves. The ultimate sharp blade fills the slash marks. Even if Minos Grande falls into it, it will be instantly cut into bloody residue. Now, Shuya Palace. On top of the huge and towering throne, a man with brown hair and bangs hanging down to his forehead, holding his head on his arms, looked at the people below expressionlessly. Ikamaru Jin, the remaining 8 people in Espada, were all silent, with large drops of cold sweat streaming down their foreheads. Ulquiorra and Yami were killed by the enemy like ants. A bad start. This is a disgrace to the entire Hueco Mundo, and also to Aizen-sama. Espada. Grimjow, who was the most arrogant and had the strongest fighting spirit, remained silent at this time. An evenly matched battle is a battle, and dying like an ant can only be a clown. You have worked so hard to build Espada, but it seems that it is not as good as me. Aizen-suk spoke indifferently, looking at the people below with calm eyes. Espada was 4th in front of Kuchiki Qianye and was killed in an instant. Represent. Even if all Espada members come together, they won't be able to have any impact on Soul Society's top combat power. You guys guard Hueco Mundo. Also, our enemy is not Kuchiki Qianye. After Aizen finished speaking, he touched Zanpakutō, and his whole body disappeared instantly. Come to a secret place and start practicing in seclusion. He has always relied on Ultimate's Ryatsu to fight his enemies. Now, the appearance of Kuchiki Qianye has inspired his competitive spirit for the first time in a long time. One person who owns Bankai actually reacted to this the next day. If he can also Bankai and Kuchiki Qianye, it's not the people on the side of the Spirit King's palace. As long as they avoid his combat power, the plan can proceed smoothly. But the creation of King Ki requires 100,000 souls in Karakura Town, the land of heavy spirits. Qianye Entertainment City is located within Karakura Town. How to avoid it? This is a big problem. Everyone exhaled a breath and wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads. Master Aizen's sense of oppression is really too strong. But why did Lord Aizen stop the plan? On the side, Espada number 2, Berrigan looked at Aizen's leaving back with an incomprehensible expression. Perhaps he is moving to a higher level. Ikamaru Jin squinted his eyes with a familiar smile still on his lips. After experiencing a severe beating from Kuchiki Qianye, with Aizen's arrogance, he would definitely be intolerable. Him now, I'm afraid, we need to pursue a more powerful force area. This world, Qianye Entertainment City, Kuchiki Qianye looked at the group of people leaving and yawned lazily. Masked army. The real purpose is to go against Aizen. Whatever Aizen does, they will always oppose it. Mass. There is no hostile relationship with Aizen, so why accept them? Isn't it good to just lie down and catch fish every day? Hirako Shinji, Muguruma Kensei, Torabashi Arjar, and others were extremely frustrated. They wanted to invite Kuchiki Qianye to lead the masked legion against Aizen. Unexpectedly, Kuchiki Qianye actually refused. Aizen, isn't he the enemy of Soul Society? They really couldn't think of the reason why Kuchiki Qianye refused. But, Saragaki Hiyori, Yudamura Lisa, you can come and work at Qianye Entertainment City in normal times. Hirako combed his yellow hair and turned to look at Qianye Entertainment City. Although the requirements for applying here are extremely high, they also have high requirements for appearance, personality, and ability. But with the abilities of Saragaki Hiyori and Yudamura Lisa, is still very simple. What? Let us become workers. Saragaki Hiyori was stunned in disbelief, and the two pigtails on the back of his head stood up. Yes, it's work. Now, Kuchiki Qianye has become the general manager of the present world, Qianye Entertainment City, which is the core of competition among all forces in the present world and the future. Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, all major forces in this world, and even hell, will pay special attention to Kuchiki Qianye. Hirako Shinji nodded solemnly, not as if he was joking. We can't let Kuchiki Qianye lead the masked legion, then become his worker, even if it's just a good relationship. In the future, it is possible to save the lives of Yudamura Lisa and Saragaki Hiyori. With their strength, it will be impossible to take revenge on Aizen. As for Godei 13, they don't have much investment in the real world. Now, the biggest supporter in the whole real world is Kuchiki Qianye. Remember, even if you join Qianye Entertainment City, don't mention things that make Qianye take action or don't cause trouble for him. Those kind of people are not something we can calculate. Hirako Shinji continued to give instructions. He only wanted to protect his companions and avoid waiting for others to die, which would lead to the total destruction of the mask. Aside, Hiyori and Lisa both nodded. Before, the battle between Kuchiki Qianye and the two Espadas was like a whirlwind, and they could be killed with just a snap of the finger. Who could be so obsessed with plotting against Kuchiki Qianye? But, just after a few people left, two figures appeared in the alleys around Qianye Entertainment City. Soul Society's actions are so fast. Such a brutal battle was repaired so quickly. A thin man with long hair and bangs raised his eyebrows and looked at the smooth and new streets and the buildings on both sides that showed no signs of damage. Tsukishima, Soul Society, the water is very deep. Aside, a man with slicked back hair and a familiar figure chuckled. Aren't we a little arrogant in wanting to control Soul Society's strongest men? Haikiro Tsukishima looked not far away. The signboard of Qianye Entertainment City, head slightly raised. Now, right there, sitting in charge is Kuchiki Qianye, one of Soul Society's two superpowers, as famous as Yamamoto Genrisai. Genuine, captain level. This kind of character, Tsukishima, don't panic. No matter how strong you are, you'll have your own weaknesses. Jinjo-ko chuckled and stroked a cross-shaped pendant. Zero, please give me flowers as a first-generation agent Shinigami. I even have a certain understanding of Yamamoto Genrisai. Even Yamamoto's Raijin only has extremely explosive attack power. He himself, although he can slay and move ghosts to the extreme, has no ability close to the rules. This is also the biggest advantage of their perfection technique. Controlling the rules is almost a rule. Gather the men. Jinjo-ko and Tsukishima Haikiro took one last look at Qianye Entertainment City, then turned and left without looking back. A few days later, Qianye Entertainment City. Kuchiki Qianye was lying lazily on the big sofa, with Feijun feeding him grapes. At the same time, in front of me, the two figures are even more pleasing to the eye. Matsumoto Ranjaku has big orange waves and a figure that is ready to show off. And Captain Uno Hanaretsu of the 4th Division, who wears black braids covering his collarbone and always has a gentle smile on his face. Division 4. There are also the support troops sent by Soul Society. After all, although the current world seems calm, but under the threat of Aizen, a terrifying war may break out at any time, whether in this world or in Soul Society, injuring innocent people, even civilians. So, as the medical team of the 4th Division, half of the personnel, and even the captain himself, came to this world to provide support, Qianye Entertainment City occupies the most advantageous location, and the center of Karakura Town serves as the quartering area for the 4th Division. Certainly, the station is not for nothing. On weekdays, I also have to serve as a waiter and do some services such as serving tea and water. Sir Qianye, is there a problem with this arrangement? Matsumoto Ranjika looked at Kuchiki Qianye after explaining the actual defense measures. Kuchiki Qianye, on the other hand, waved his hand. Leave everything to Unohana Retsu. The current general secretary is so salty that even Matsumoto Ranjiku couldn't help but widen his eyes. This Master Qianye, although I haven't had much contact with him before, I know he is a salty person. But suddenly gained such huge power, he still remained unmoved and continued to enjoy wine and beautiful women every day. This kind of salted fish. It's really, really scary. Unohana Retsu smiled slightly. Doesn't she know who Kuchiki Qianye is? If you can sit, never stand. If you can lie down, never sit. Just put your hand away. Above, Kuchiki Qianye, still squinting his eyes, took a sip of wine. Next moment, ding. Congratulations to host. You continue to drink alcohol, discuss life with beauties, remain unmoved in the face of the temptation of power, and unlock the achievement. The country is not as good as the beauty. Host's Yin Yang Wind Curse continues to unlock the 4th spell, the intuitive main curse. Kuchiki Qianye raised his eyes slightly, glanced at the system panel, and then raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. Intuitive mantra. Ultimate intuition. Feel the yin and yang. All living creatures, even dead things, can clearly sense the feelings they have for themselves. This is a magic trick to prevent assassination. As long as someone wants to harm you, you can know it in advance. Then you can make corresponding arrangements. Good. Kuchiki Qianye nodded with satisfaction. Now, my offensive ability is fully developed, and I am not afraid of the control and damage of any rule system. But, in terms of intelligence, it is slightly lacking. Although the 2nd team is all his subordinates, even they cannot do everything in detail. In the original work, the Invisible Empire has been hidden in Siriidi for thousands of years. Even the 2nd team failed to find them out. This kind of auxiliary ability is exactly what I need now. Now, 4 of the Yin and Yang Wind Curses have been unlocked. 6 Souls Horror Curse, Seal of Sleep, Burial Curse, Intuitive Mantra. Subsequently, Kuchiki Qianye took a sip of wine and intuitively felt that the spell was activated. In an instant, everyone present could know the attitude towards him. Phasian is like warm water, moisturizing things silently and clinging tightly to her body. Unohana Retsu is full of goodwill and respect for the strong. Ranjiku, on the other hand, was in deep shock and didn't understand why he gave up the power that was at his fingertips. Intuitive Mantra. The effect gradually extends further and further, and the entire present world is gradually perceived. Even the entire world, Soul Society, above the sky, there's an undisguised fear, the devil. I just want to get rid of myself quickly. That is the Soul King Palace. And inside there is the fake monk Ichibai Haisub, who has the power to change and name everything in Soul Society. Hueco Mundo. It was desolate, with only a huge momentum, faintly competing with himself, but without any malice. I'm afraid Aizen was also trying to get better. Nowadays, there are only rats hiding in the ditch, weak and weak, secretly plotting something against themselves. Dividing line. New books are on the shelves. Please send flowers and subscribe. Up 074. Complete destruction and manifestation. Kuchiki Qianye is unrivaled. This world, at this time, an organization with certain strength. Apart from the masked legion, there's only the perfection technique organization, Skyushin. The leaders are first-generation agent Shinigami Jinjo-ko and the mini-boss behind the scenes, Tsukishima Kakuro, who possesses the Book of the End. And Siriidei, in the shadows of the darkness, there's an extremely huge power hidden, not only for yourself, but for the entire world. That is Yhwach's invisible empire. It has spanned thousands of years and has now grown to an extremely terrifying level. Subsequently, Kuchiki Qianye shook his head slightly and took a sip of wine. Anyway, as long as he fishes and enjoys life, he can become stronger. Now, there are very few people who can pose a certain threat to him, as long as it continues to rot. Keep improving your strength, and there is no need to be afraid. A few months later, Karakura Town, a noisy and lively scene. This is the annual meeting. Street. There are all kinds of delicious food everywhere, as well as small games such as catching goldfish. Several figures walking on the street have become the most dazzling scenery, and the rate of turning heads is almost 100%. Wearing a floral shirt, Kuchiki Qianye looks like a playboy, and several other beautiful girls wearing kimonos. Hijin, Rukia, Inoue, Oraheim, Matsumoto, Ranjaku, Unohana, Retsu. There were 2 employees carrying luggage, looking at Kuchiki Qianye, who was walking in front with a look of resentment. Saragaki Hiyori, Medical Eye Lisa. A lot of hard work. I joined Qianye Entertainment City, and in the end, I was just left with the job of carrying luggage. Ahead, Kuchiki Qianye felt the resentment in his eyes, and a smile appeared on his face, directly enjoying Wind's annual festival life. Saragaki Hiyori. She has 2 pigtails and looks cute, but she always has a draggy look on her face. Former Godei 13th Division, Deputy Captain of the 12th Division, and concurrently Director of the Research Office of the Technology 250 Technology Development Bureau. Zanpakutō is just an ordinary direct attack type Zanpakutō. And Yudumura Lisa. She is a girl with braided braids and sailor uniform, who looks well-behaved on the outside, but is extremely nymphomaniac on the inside. Former Deputy Captain of the 8th Division. In this kind of festival, the Shinigami from Soul Society put on their costumes, and the 2 girls from the Masked Legion carried their luggage. Follow Kuchiki Qianye on the streets of this world. Hey, this Iguay is really unhappy. Matsumoto Ranjika tugged at his clothes, looking a little out of breath. The space in Iguay was too small, which gave her great constraints. Aside, Rukia patted the steel plate and gritted her teeth in envy. Hateful. Why haven't I grown up yet? Sir Qianye, I may be sick. Check me out when you get back. Matsumoto Ranjaku is still having trouble breathing, which is incredible for her at the vice captain level. It greatly affected her combat effectiveness. Kuchiki Qianye just looked at her for a moment and then nodded decisively. Being the boss is trouble. If your subordinates have any health problems, you should check them yourself at the same time. On the crowded street, several figures were hidden in the darkness, with sharp eyes like wild wolves, constantly looking at Kuchiki Qianye and his group. That is Kuchiki Qianye. Immediately, wait until they go to a place with few people, and then start taking action. The tall and strong Jinjo Kuga whispered, staring at Kuchiki Qianye with his eyes. To be able to get such powerful help, whatever they do is no longer a luxury. You can even directly challenge Soul Society. Even if Soul Society sends more powerful people, there is no need to be afraid. Rear, there are 4 dull voices. Han, a young lion with a shaved punk head and a finger tiger with the number 777 on it. Yukio, a boy with pale skin, blonde hair and blue eyes, always holds a game console. An elegant man with a black eye patch on his right eye, a black beard, and a whip in his hand, Kiriko Tosawa. And Haikuro Tsukishima, who has dark hair, deep eyes, and a handsome face, and is always playing with a bookmark in his hand. Not long after, Kuchiki Qianye and his party came to the fireworks festival on the grassland by the river. This is the property of the Kuchiki family in this world. Even if there are many tourists, It can only be used by the Kuchiki family. Bang, colorful fireworks bloomed in the sky. Kuchiki Qianye was lying comfortably on the lawn, surrounded by girls lying around. Matsumoto Ranjaku still looked like he couldn't breathe, and his face was a little red. But, pity, such beautiful fireworks are always disturbed by small insects. Kuchiki Qianye shook his head slightly. In his intuitive spell, several weak pressures slowly approached him like rats in the gutter. Master of the perfect art organization. In terms of strength alone, they're not even as good as the captain level. However, many of them have abilities similar to the rules. To a certain extent, it can produce unexpected effects. Next moment, whoosh, along with a strange fluctuation, Kuchiki Qianye's figure disappeared from the spot. In the grove, a young man with blonde hair, blue eyes, and pale skin looked excited. Success! I succeeded and pulled Kuchiki Qianye in the game space. Yukio's face turned red. This is his ability, Intruders Will Die. By controlling the handheld game console, the designated opponent can be transferred to a space that completely blocks Ryatsu's abilities. By controlling the game, you can control the space inside and control the opponent's actions. However, Kuchiki Qianye's Ryatsu is so huge that even if it is pulled in reluctantly, it can only support it for a moment at most. Use it, Tongzi, hurry up, Tsukishima and Jincheng hurriedly urged, and Kiriko Tozawa, who was wearing an eye patch, nodded slightly, and then used his ability without any words. The medium of the ability is a pocket watch, which can set a time limit mechanism so that items will change when they exceed the set time limit. It can also set a certain time range limit for anyone and anything. Just in time, it can extend the time Kuchiki Qianye is trapped in the game space. Tsukishima, it's up to you. Inchung patted Tsukishima on the shoulder. Tsukishima just raised a slight smile at the corner of his mouth, and the bookmark in his hand turned into a long, sharp knife. Perfection technique, Book of the End. Medium. Tsukishima's ability medium is his own bookmark. Use spiritual power to strengthen the bookmark, turning it into a samurai sword with a small chain attached, a very advanced attack ability, and the ability to chop everything. Sandwiching into existence. You can insert your own existence into the other person's past and change the other person's memory without hurting the other person. You can know what the person who was slashed knew before he was pinched. If this ability is used again to hit an object that has been caught in the past, or Tsukishima dies, the chopped object will return to its normal state. This is his biggest trump card. All he needs to do is to implant into Kuchiki Qianye's memory that he and others are his companions. From now on, he can control this strong man to a certain extent. The killer of Soul Society. As long as he inserts the Book of Ending into the game space, he can perfectly control Kuchiki Qianye without even entering it himself. But, next moment, boring. A lazy voice sounded. Who? Everyone's pupils shrank violently and looked back. I saw a figure wearing a floral shirt, shaking slightly with a glass of sake in his hand, and leaning against a big tree with a lazy look on his face. Kuchiki Qianye. Everyone present was shocked. Wasn't he imprisoned in the game space? Yukio quickly looked into the game space and saw a figure exactly like Kuchiki Qianye, gradually disappearing Kuchiki Qianye, who has 3,000 phantoms, can detect the moment the crisis comes, and the one who is imprisoned is just a clone of himself. Kuchiki Qianye shook his head slightly. With the strength of these perfectionists, even if they possess some of the rules abilities, they cannot pose any threat to themselves. After all, the gap in hard power, no rules or strategies can make up for it. Damn it, Shishigawara, I leave it to you. Inchung frowned. A young man wearing a finger tiger and holding a punk head roared and rushed towards Kuchiki Qianye. His abilities, it's a one-hit kill. As long as you're touched by his finger tiger, there's a certain probability of triggering the instant death effect. As long as the plan fails, we will do our best to kill Kuchiki Qianye. Such a dangerous person must not be allowed to live in reality. Next moment, laugh. A pure white sword light suddenly shines. The night sky is shrouded in pure white light, accompanied by an ultimate sharpness. cut everything, break everything. Moment. The roar of the running lion Kawara suddenly stopped. Huffed. And the air was filled with large puffs of blood. The 777-finger tiger in his hand broke directly, while Heir himself was divided into two equal halves and fell heavily to the ground with a bang. Kawara. Everyone else's eyes were about to pop out. Their eyes were fixed on Kawara's body that was divided into two pieces. And the unmoved, expressionless Kuchiki Qianye. Hateful. Withdraw. Jinjo Kugo shouted loudly. But filled his sight. It's boundless, densely packed with blades that outline a white skynet. Next moment, the smell of blood permeated the entire forest, and Kuchiki Qianye walked out of the woods without a second glance. Just right. I met girls with anxious faces. Lord Qianye, are you okay? You disappeared suddenly. We didn't sense your Ryatsu until just now. Matsumoto Ranjaku, Uno Hanaretsu, and others all looked at Kuchiki Qianye with worried faces. And Kuchiki Qianye just shook his head. In the air, in the grove, the extremely pungent smell of blood is filling the air. The smell of blood? The girls' expressions froze, and they walked into the woods to check, only to see 5 figures evenly divided into 2 halves. The blood has not solidified. Apparently just killed. This is... Matsumoto Ranjika looked at Kuchiki Qianye. But Saragaki Hiyori and Yaduma Lisa in the back widened their eyes and exclaimed, Tsukishima Hidekuro, Jinjo Ko, and Yukio, Shishiwara, and Karizawa Kuriko, the leader of the perfect art. He was killed by Master Qianye in an instant. Complete technique, organization 0. I had some contact with the Masked Legion before, and even there was a fight. Jinjo Ko and Tsukishima Hidekuro are the core figures of the full Senjutsu organization. Even Muguruma Kensei and Hirako Shinji would have a headache against them. Only because Jinjo Kugo is the first-generation agent Shinigami with superior combat power. Like the previous Kurosaki Ichigo, he even possesses the 4 powers of Shinigami, Hollow, Human, and Quincy. And Tsukishima Hidekuro, his Book of the End, can change people's memories, turn enemies into friends, and make enemies kill each other. As for the others, everyone's abilities are extremely pervert, almost in line with the rules. But such a strong man was defeated in an instant by Master Kuchiki Qianye. Suddenly, after carrying luggage for a day, the resentment in the 2 people's hearts also disappeared. They were both happy that the complete Senjutsu organization was destroyed, and they also had sincere respect for Kuchiki Qianye. A few small rolls. Kuchiki Qianye just said lightly, then took out a bottle of wine, drank it by himself, and squinted at the scenery outside. The moonlight is beautiful, paired with fireworks. It is indeed a feast for the eyes. Night. Kuchiki Qianye checks his panel. After these few months of messing around, I have experienced various gameplays in this world that I had never been exposed to in Soul Society before. My own Ryatsu has reached level 85. You know, even the captains in the later stages, except for perverts like Zaraki Kenpachi, the others are only at level 5,000 or 6,000 in Ryatsu. And Kuchiki Qianye, even without Bankai, you can touch the combat power of the captain level. If Bankai, Ryatsu can break through the limits of Shinigami, reaching an elusive level. The total amount of Ryatsu is even comparable to that of Aizen, who is fully fused with Jayaku, and is even richer. And the 1,000-arm god has also been upgraded to the level of 36 arms. The phantom body of 3,000 shadows has been upgraded to 54 shadows. It can be said that now, as long as there are enough Kuchiki Qianye Ryatsu, thousands of Kid can be released at the same time. Destroy everything in an instant. Even the entire Karakura town will disappear under the indiscriminate bombardment of thousands of Kid. Good. Kuchiki Qianye nodded with satisfaction. Coupled with Bankai, my current strength has reached a higher level based on the extremely strong combat power. And the Invisible Empire's ability to seize Bankai has no effect at all in front of its own sharpness that can cut off all rules. At the same time, Soul Society. Godii 13 headquarters, inside the captain's dojo. After a few months, an old man with an X-shaped scar on his head who looked shaky finally came out. The momentum all over his body is as deep as the vast ocean. The surrounding space is crumbling in front of the ultimate Ryatsu and the destructive power. Captain. In the team, other captains looked at the reappearing captain, their eyes filled with awe. Kairaku Shunsui, who has always been shy, has an extremely well-behaved expression, as if he has returned to his school days and faced the oppression of the old man 5.7. After this period of time, the captain is stronger. No one knows what he has understood. But Yamamoto Jinrosai just waved his hand and returned to Godai, 13 on crutches, with a pair of old eyes as sharp as an eagle. Prepare, set up formations in Karakura Town, and transfer Karakura Town to Soul Society. The battle with Aizen is about to begin. At the same time, Hueco Mundo, the gray-white Shuya Palace, exudes an extremely cold atmosphere. Sitting on the throne was a man with an expressionless face and a cold and arrogant expression. A strand of bangs hung in front of his forehead, and his eyes were like the abyss of a cold pool. The light and shadow around the body changed, and the shape of the Kaika Sujetsu in the hand also changed, becoming a long-term Shurkai state. Below, the only remaining Espada did not dare to breathe out, and Ikamura Jin's pupils shrank slightly, and the smile at the corner of his mouth was a little stiff. Zanpakutō is liberated for a long time. This means that Aizen Suk, who in the past was only obsessed with Ryatsu and Kid and did not bother to practice Bankai, has learned Bankai today. Kaika Sujetsu is extremely terrifying and cannot be countered. Bankai's words. Even their subordinates couldn't tell whether what they perceived at this time was the real reality. Assemble everyone and head to Karakura Town, above. Aizen spoke softly, but started a war involving Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, the present world, and the three worlds. Dividing line. New books are on the shelves. Please give me flowers and subscribe. 075. Karakura Town, Godai, 13 verses. Hueco Mundo now. Qianye Entertainment City. There are huge crowds of people, and there are noisy scenes of flowers and brocades and fire cooking oil everywhere. In the entertainment city, various programs are performed from time to time, including all kinds of entertainment in this world. This is also the largest entertainment venue in the entire Karakura Town. Kuchiki Qianye was lying lazily on the sofa. Behind him, Feijinsu was massaging his head with her hands. The slightest aroma is tangy. Ding! Host continues to enjoy life. Feijin massages, the entertainment city is ruined, and unlocks the title Enjoyment Master. Host Ryatsu breaks through to level 86. The system mechanical sounds. Kuchiki Qianye just took a sip of wine lazily without even raising his eyes. Ryatsu level 86, breaking through the limits of Shinigami. In today's world, only Aizen, who has merged with Hijin and evolved many times, can possibly rival himself. Now, even captain level. Most Ryatsu are only around level 50 or 60. Even Bankai is only at level 70 at most. Master Qianye, is this strength appropriate? From behind, Feijin squinted his eyes and looked at Kuchiki Qianye with a soft smile on his face. Kuchiki Qianye nodded slightly. At the same time, in a huge box, there are also some pretty girls wearing light veils, dancing various dances, which made Rukia blush a little. Kuchiki Qianye, everything is good, but I enjoy myself too much. And Matsumoto Ranjaku, as the inspector of Jinglingting, naturally he cannot stay in Qianye Entertainment City for a long time, and he has to take care of daily patrols on weekdays, as well as dealing with some virtual ones who only have the strength of Xiao Xiaomi. Uno Enaretsu, on the other hand, is immersed in the busyness of the world every day. 04 Kuchiki Qianye became the hands-off shopkeeper. Naturally, most of the things in this world are left to her, as the captain of the 4th Division, and she is also the one with the highest official position in the world besides K. Not long after, a communication from Soul Society came out of the blue. What? Captain Yamamoto was in seclusion before, but now he has come out of seclusion. And according to the descriptions of other captains, his current strength is simply unfathomable, much stronger than ordinary people. Originally, Captain Yamamoto is the strongest Shinigami in thousands of years. If the strength increases again, others were stunned and in disbelief. As the captain, Captain Yamamoto held an important position and was also a well-known figure in Soul Society. Another step forward, but Kuchiki Qianye, on the other hand, still frowned and shook the wine glass in his hand. It seems it was before the battle with Aizen stimulated Mr. Yamamoto, causing him to now work hard to become stronger. Next, it's the battle between Aizen and Mr. Yamamoto, and the battlefield is this Karakura town. Based on the original work, Karakura town is the battlefield for the decisive battle between the two sides. Even if it has a butterfly effect, it will only have some time impact on such a big plot. After all, since I traveled through time, I haven't interfered too much in Hueco Mundo's affairs. A fight between the two is inevitable, but the final outcome is still unpredictable. This time different from the original work. Soul Society's captain position has been greatly damaged. Kamamura Sajin's original combat strength was injured by himself and has not recovered until now. And Hueco Mundo, not much better. Two of the original Espada members, Espada 4, Ulquara, and Espada 0 Yami, were all killed by Kuchiki Qianye. And originally, Tosin Qianye, who was Aizen Suk and one of the main combat forces of Aizen Suk's side, was also cut off in too early. Perished in Soul Society. At this time, Soul Society and Hueco Mundo both suffered unprecedented nerfs. Now, outside Karakura town, beside the huge formation, there was a group of figures wearing Black Death Tyrant uniforms with resolute faces gathered. It is Siriidi's special force, shouldering a heavy responsibility at this time. That is, create a formation that can cover the entire Karakura town. Move the entire Karakura town to the Siriidii, and at the moment when the formation layout was completed, the entire Karakura town. Suddenly, it was unreal for a moment. The next moment, it returned to normal, but the streets were empty, and I don't know where they were transferred. Right now, above the sky, a huge crack in space was torn open with a sound. That's Black Accent. It is also the channel through which the void leads to the real world and Soul Society. Several figures appeared directly. Bear the brunt. It was Aizen Suk with brown hair, a strand of bangs hanging on his forehead, and cold and arrogant eyes, as if nothing could make him waver. Now, he is the ruler of Hueco Mundo. He is also the biggest traitor of Soul Society, possessing the crushing pressure that allows Shinigami to break through the limits. Beside him, Ikamaru Jin, who has silver hair and always has a smile on his lips, holds a slender Zanpakutō in his hand. Kamishini no Yari. It can be expanded and contracted at will. It can even break through hundreds of times the speed of sound, killing enemies instantly. Followed closely, there are 8 different figures. The bodies are all covered in pale color, as if they were masks made of bones. There are numbers 1 to 9 on the shoulders, abdomen, or cheeks. Espada 8. This is the peak power of Hueco Mundo. It's enough to level everything. Everyone's combat power is equivalent to that of a captain. Even the top 3 Espadas all have the strength of top captains. Is this Karakura town, Chongling land? Behind him, Grimjow, a man with blue hair and an arrogant expression, put his hands in his pockets and looked down with squinted eyes. I saw. The room below was empty. There was no one around. It was just like a ghost town. Behind, the other Espada members also frowned. This scene was really weird. There was no one on the street. Could it be that they came to a fake Karakura town? Everyone focused their attention on Aizen, but Aizen still had no expression on his face and just stood there quietly. Even in Karakura town, there is not a trace of human beings. You can't let his demeanor fluctuate at all. Next moment, boom, a huge Ryatsu exploded. In the air, dozens of Shinigami figures appeared, wearing Black Death Tyrant outfits, holding Zanpakutō, and with dignified brows. The first to bear the brunt. It was a figure with a stooped body, a snow-white beard on his cheeks, and a large X-shaped scar on his head. Yamamoto Jinrasai, the captain of the Godai 13, and the man known as the strongest Shinigami in 1,000 years. And behind him, it is Godai 13, all existing advanced combat forces. Byakuya Kuchiki, the second son of the Kuchiki family, possesses Zanpakutō Sakura, Bankai, and can turn into numerous densely packed Sakura flower fragments. Each Sakura flower fragment is extremely sharp and can easily cut a throat. Zaraki Kenpachi, the most powerful team, the captain of the 11th team, even though he can't even Shurikai or Bankai. But the powerful Ryatsu alone can crush everything. A straight attack, even the vice captain couldn't catch it. This was also later listed as one of the 5 special-level combatants when the Invisible Empire invaded. Now, came here too, and behind them, Hitsugaya Chur, holding a sharp-edged Zanpakutō with cold light, narrowed his eyes slightly. The strongest Ice-type Zanpakutō, Ice-Tile, even though not as famous as Raijin Jaka, Kaika Sujetsu, and Kuchiki Qianye's Taiyanjuangxiang, but it's still Soul Society, the strongest Zanpakutō. Further back, there are Kairoka Shunsui with a salty look on his face, Shuri Yukitake who is ready to fight, and even Kuratsuchi Mayuri, the director of the Technology Development Bureau and a pure logistics staff, all join the battle. Godai 13, all personnel, large and small, are dispatched. The vice captains are also gathered here, above Karakura town. The atmosphere was cold, and the atmosphere between the two was extremely solemn. The mammoth Ryatsu shook the heavens and the earth, covering everything in the surrounding area. The buildings below were all clicking, and cracked into dark and deep cracks. Next moment, with a bang, it collapsed, unable to bear it. This extremely powerful Ryatsu is like crumbs of paper, but in the middle of Karakura town, a luxuriously decorated building with a dazzling array of ambient lights everywhere. Known as the largest entertainment city in Karakura town, Qianye Entertainment City has not been affected at all. Even though, no matter how huge the Ryatsu is, it cannot cause the slightest damage to Qianye Entertainment City. Qianye Entertainment City, that is Kuchiki Qianye's territory. Behind them, the Espada members looked solemn. Kuchiki Qianye, one of the super strong men of Soul Society, a figure as famous as Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni. Even though Ulquiorra and Yami also ended up being killed instantly when facing him. But Aizen, above, glanced at Qianye Entertainment City briefly, and then stopped paying attention. Now that Kuchiki Qianye, before he left Soul Society, did not kill himself, it means he is definitely not loyal to the Spirit King. After all, with the character he has always shown no concern for any power or thing. How could one be truly loyal to the Spirit King? Don't worry, Aizen said lightly, and the Espada members behind him all nodded. Aizen is an absolute talker in Hueco Mundo. His words, it is also equivalent to giving everyone a shot in the arm. Aizen, since taking over Hueco Mundo, they have been strategizing, winning thousands of miles, and are strong. Everyone, they all have absolute confidence in Aizen. And at this moment, opposite, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni narrowed his eyes slightly, and his aura was more restrained than before. Frowning, he looked at Qianye Pavilion not far away. 076. This is fake Aizen. Qianye Entertainment City. Just be there quietly. Even the powerful Ryatsu in the air, in front of the protective formation of the entertainment city, is like a long embankment washed by the waves, unmoving. Kuchiki Qianye. Behind them, Zaraki Kenpachi, Hitsugaya Chur, and others all frowned, looked at Qianye Entertainment City, exhaled a breath of air, and shook their heads slightly. Right? With his character, how could he join the war? Everyone held the Zanpakutō in their hands solemnly, and the cold light on it shone with a dazzling light. Looking at Espada with different expressions in front of him, and besides Aizen Suk, the biggest traitor of Soul Society, Ikamaru Jin. Next moment, boom, Dozens of Ryatsu burst out suddenly in the air. All buildings within a radius of 10 miles were instantly destroyed. Under this powerful Ryatsu, they were crushed into fine powder. At the same time, Espada, a huge Ryatsu, flashed, and the Zanpakutō in the hand of the burly-looking old man suddenly disappeared. And others. All the Zanpakutō in his hand disappeared together. Next moment, Ryatsu, who is far larger than before, rises into the sky. Return to the blade. Baragon's whole body was covered with blazing purple flames glowing with black light. His whole body exuded an aura of decay, and all the skin and flesh on the body has disappeared. It turned into pale bones that were white and cold, revealing a cold and decaying atmosphere. This is his return weapon, controlled decay and time. Being attacked by him can cause people to age instantly. And other Aaronkar, they all also activated Return Blade. Grimjow's whole body shape changed suddenly. His whole body shrank rapidly and turned into a gray-white cheetah, even if the body becomes smaller. But the Ryatsu that erupted from him was extremely amazing, far better than before. Opposite, Hitsugaya Chur, Byakuya Kuchiki, and others watched this scene quietly. Return to the edge. It's also Aaronkar's ultimate move. Similar to Shurkai, Bankai, and Shinigami. You can give yourself several times, or even 10 times the blessing. But it's different for Shinigami. Aaronkar's return will also change his own form. It looks like it can no longer be called human at all. Instead, they will turn into various monsters. As the captain of Godei 13, Yamamoto Jinrosai has lost his body at this time. Don't know where to go. Above, Aizen's expression did not change. He just quietly watched the battle below, which seemed to him like a game. Chest. A beautiful round jade stone, glowing with cold light, was tightly attached to it. It exudes an ethereal and illusory atmosphere, as if it should not exist in the human world. Jayaku. Aizen Suk and Urahara Kisuk's co-creation. The difference is, Urahara Kisuk's attitude towards Jayaku is to destroy this evil existence, because the existence of Jayaku has seriously affected the safety of the world. After all, the entire world exists with the Spirit King as a wedge. The existence of Jayaku can break the boundaries between Shinigami and Hollow and create monsters far beyond their limits. It possesses extremely powerful power. Once this power is used by others with evil intentions, it may lead to a devastating outcome. And Aizen, after discovering the history of Soul Society and the shadowy corruption hidden under the long river of history, I did not choose to obey. Since childhood, he stands at the top of everyone. Lonely as snow, his eyes are high above his head, and no one can enter his eyes. A full 100 years, only Kuchiki Qianye broke his pride, and he even didn't have much respect for Yamamoto Jinrosai. After learning the truth about everything, he had a strong dislike for this world that existed with the Spirit King as a wedge. To create an ideal world of your own, kill the Spirit King, and bring a new peace to this world. Next moment, as Aizen stood in the air, Jayaku and his physical body continued to merge. Boom! A huge pillar of flames rose into the sky. Honestly, I locked Aizen in that blazing Fire King. Sky. They were all dyed a bright red color like blood, and the entire sky was filled with a dazzling firelight. The huge pillar of fire penetrates the sky and the earth, emitting extremely scorching heat from the inside. Around, thousands of meters of ground was instantly burnt to a crisp. It gave off a pungent smell, originally solid land. Under this high temperature that far exceeds the limit, everything is melting crazily, revealing an aura as clear as glass. Subsequently, and turned into magma as scarlet as blood. And Aizen Suk was firmly locked in the flame beam. With this kind of heat, even he couldn't forcefully break through. If you want to force a breakthrough, sooner or later you'll be burned to death by this blazing fire. Flames burned the sky. It reflected Kuchiki Qianye's eyes. Inside Qianye Pavilion, Kuchiki Qianye was lying lazily on the sofa, gently shaking a glass of scarlet wine in his hand. Lazy eyes, fighting against the outside world. Espada, as well as the remaining captains and vice-captains of Godai 13. They are all in mid-air, gathered into battle groups, and are fighting hard. And Byakuya Kuchiki's opponent is Shamba. In the original work, that one in Ichigo fought many times. The man who was finally defeated by Ichigo. But, although Grimjow's strength has greatly increased, he seemed a little timid in the battle with Byakuya. Don't dare to commit a real murderer. Under Byakuya Kuchiki, Senbonzakura turned into sakura flower petals all over the sky, struggling to support. It looks like a small boat in the storm, teetering on the edge and about to capsize at any time. And surrounding, the others were in deep and raging water, and they wanted to kill him to the ground in the next second. All of these, all formed a sharp contrast. Kuchiki Qianye nodded slightly. It seems Grimjow, as well as the other Espada members, were ordered not to actually harm Byakuya Kuchiki. At the same time, the fire in the sky was also burning brightly, and the dazzling red light entered Kuchiki Qianye's eyes. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked lazily at the sky above. Just like in the original work, Yamamoto Jinrosai, still using the flame formation, trapped Aizen and bought time. After they defeated all the Espada members outside, then gather all the power to deal with Aizen. But Kuchiki Qianye shook his head slightly. Above, how can there be any real Aizen? After all things can be Bankai, Kuchiki Qianye naturally has been enveloped by the aura of Bankai. And the usual sword light also has a hint of rules. Although, facing members like Yawatch and the Knights of the Star Cross, the existing sword light without Bankai is not enough to cut off all their rules. But it's easy to see through the illusion of Kaika Sujetsu. Above, where is Aizen? What exists is just a shadow of Aizen. The real Aizen has long gone to nowhere. But Kuchiki Qianye, the corners of his mouth are slightly raised. Where the real Aizen is, no one can guess. But, judging from the purpose of his trip, it is clear where the real Aizen is. Right here at Soul Society, and still in the real Karakura town. He wants to deceive everyone and arrange the entire Soul Society, as well as Hueco Mundo's combat power in this world. As for him, he wanted to quietly go to Soul Society and find the transferred Karakura town. The properties of the Karakura town Heavy Spirit Land are used to create the King Key. Create the key to open the door to the Soul King's palace. Completely kill the Spirit King. But Kuchiki Qianye just shook his head slightly. He had previously moved all the residents of Karakura town to safe areas. This means that what Aizen got was only a piece of land of heavy souls. And with his ability, it would probably take less than half a day to find 100,000 souls. But even if he does open the door to the Spirit King's palace and fuse with Hijayaku, he has the ability to evolve multiple times. But in the Spirit King Palace, there is the Zero Squadron. Ichibai Haisub, he is a figure from the same era as the Spirit King and the ancestors of the Five Nobles. A fake monk. With the Zanpakutō in the form of a brush in your hand, you can easily name everything in Soul Society. And you can also take away the other person's name. As long as the opponent's name is taken away, whether it is Strength, Ryatsu, Norjiao, or Combat Power, everything will be halved. If you're deprived of it a few more times, or even lose your own name, that person will also heal. Not to mention, the other members of Team Zero also have their own unique skills. Nigeia, Oi, known as the God of Swords, possesses the entire Soul Society, and even the sharpest Zanpakutō in the entire three realms. Shibushi. But not Shurkai and Bankai. All that's left is Sharpness. But in the past 100 years, after the birth of his own heavenly cutting thousand things, Shibushi was originally known as the sharpest cutting sword in Soul Society. The ranking has dropped one position, ranked at the second level. As for everyone else, Senju, Kylan, and others are not easy to get along with. They all have their own specialties. And Guy, in the original work, The Thousand-Year Blood War chapter, Senju's Bankai, shocked everyone's jaws. It has many forms, and each form has the power to destroy the world. There is no simple person who can influence the history of Soul Society and change the historical process of Soul Society. Even though they seem to be just auxiliaries, but their real combat power is not inferior to the top captains at all. It even goes beyond a lot, reaching the status of transcendent. Throughout Soul Society, only Mr. Yamamoto Genrisai can barely compete with him. 077. Karakura Town, Espada returns. Hiramaru Bankai. Now, in Karakura Town, the sky was filled with traces of the battle, and the ground was shattered and mountains and rivers were overturned. There's an extremely huge, turbulent flow of spiritual energy everywhere, mixed with blazing fire. Aizen, you have run out of gas and are facing a desperate situation. Godei, 13. Everyone, they all looked at the figure wrapped in blazing fire, with expressions of satisfaction on their faces. The other Espada staff looked worried, but Ikamaru Jin was still smiling, his expression not changing at all. It's hard to guess what's going on in his mind. Not long after, an old man with a gray beard, a stooped figure, and huge scars on his head came over. In his hand, he held a cane, which looked like it had a peachwood texture and was painted with dark paint. It's Soul Society's strongest fire type, Zanpakutō. Raijin Jaka. It is also the strongest and oldest army that has accompanied Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigaku for thousands of years. Aizen. It's just too imprudent. When I came to Karakura Town, I didn't collect any information about this place in advance, and I dared to come directly. Just right. This gave Godei, 13, the chance to directly kill Aizen, even if he fused with Hijayaku. But before he can fight against life and death, activate Hijayaku's potential, and trigger his own evolution, Hijayaku is just a toy. For Aizen's strength, it's not that big that long. But now, Aizen's strength is comparable to that of a captain. The only way is to trap him first, then clip his wings. At last, gather everyone's strength and kill Aizen instantly. Destroy Hijayaku. Bring peace to the three realms again. Captain, Aizen, is there really no way to take off your clothes? Beside, someone asked. Others explained directly. This is the flame formation constructed by the commander-in-chief, who spent a lot of spiritual power and various precious resources. 960. Even Aizen, who is also the captain, can't break through it. It would be a good thing if he breaks through forcefully. As long as he breaks through forcefully, he will definitely be seriously injured. At that time, even if Aizen is killed, there will be no need to waste any effort. Other people. They were all stunned, looking at the high wall of flames not far away, feeling the terrifying heat and scorching temperature coming from inside. Large drops of sweat flowed from his forehead. In Karakura Town, the remaining Espada members were also affected by this scorching heat. Gue Rin's body glowed with red light, exuding a terrifying scorching aura, and every Espada member had large drops of sweat on his forehead. A pair of eyes stared intently at Aizen, who was filled with flame beams in midair. Rear, Ikamaru Jin still had a smile on his lips, and his silver hair turned scarlet red when illuminated by the firelight. His eyes were squinted so that his pupils could not be seen. The palm of his hand was gently stroking Zanpakutō's shins. This is Soul Society's fastest Zanpakutō, Kamishini no Yari, which can even break through hundreds of times the speed of sound and pierce a person instantly. And the knife is also covered with various venoms, enough to kill someone with one blow. Quick, kill these Espada and the traitor Ikamaru Jin. Then concentrate your strength and use it to deal with Aizen. The members of Godei Division 13 all held the Zanpakutō in their hands tightly, staring at the figures in front of them with their eyes on them. Hitsugaya Chur's body was cold, and the surrounding air was showing traces of ice, and streams of cold air flowed wildly. And Hirimaru in his fag hand, it also turned into an icy blue color. Ice flowers formed on top, and snow-white ice flowers were flying all over the sky. It looked stunning. Bankai, Daegyur and Hirinmaru. Hitsugaya, Chur frowned and shouted loudly. Suddenly, huge waves of cold air overflowed crazily towards the surroundings. Behind Chur grow two extremely huge frost wings that reveal crazy cold air. The long knife in his hand became even sharper, and there was a biting air from above. Above Karakura town, a huge ice dragon appears. Opposite, the members of Espada have already used their return blades, and they are all ready, staring at Chur in front of them. His eyes were full of solemnity. This is Chur's Bankai, who is famous even among Soul Society and must not be underestimated. At this time, boom, the huge Ryatsu airflow collides crazily, flowing wildly to both sides. Several figures crisscrossed each other, and an extremely fierce battle broke out in the air. And in the center of the war, Barrigan looks like a skull and holds a huge scepter in his hand. Every time he swings it, he can emit a storm of decay. Everyone in Godei 13 was ready, and Suifeng, at this time, used Tian Bankai. A missile-shaped object appeared in her hand, killing it with one strike. Compared to the two-hit kill, killing with one hit is more simple and crude. Combining all the strength of oneself, the power is released in an instant. With extremely powerful destructive power, it achieves a one-hit kill effect. Boom, air waves surge in the air. 1 inch. The fight was so lively. A man with yellow hair and a plain face suddenly appeared. Looking at Aizen, who was sealed in the infinite pillar of fire in mid-air, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. At the same time, in his eyes, he looked at him coldly. Aizen shook. It was Aizen who caused them to escape Soul Society, almost be killed, and even become traitors to the entire Soul Society. It takes several decades. They are all like a group of rats, huddled in this world and trying to survive. Occasionally, having to be hunted down by some Shinigami who came to this world to perform missions makes life extremely frustrating. And now, it gives them a chance for revenge. And behind Hirako Shinji, there are still several figures standing in line. Love Aikawa, Torabashi Arjar, Saragaki Hiyori, and the Combat Power Measurement Unit, Muguruma Kensei. Everyone, all gathered here. Masked Legion, all here. This is their most determined counterattack against Aizen. Liberate. Hirako Shinji took out Zanpakutō and murmured softly. This is his Zanpakutō, just like Aizen's Kaika Suigetsu. It is an illusion-type Zanpakutō. It can turn a person's vision and 5 senses upside down, greatly affecting the enemy's combat effectiveness. Below, in Qianye Entertainment City, Kuchiki Qianye, on the other hand, was sitting in the pavilion with a lazy look on his face, gently shaking the red wine glass in his hand, looking at the scene in mid-air with slightly narrowed eyes. In the air, the fight was in full swing. Behind him, Phasian and Rukia frowned and looked at the scene in mid-air. Lord Qianye, is all of this really no problem? Is it really not necessary for you to take action personally? The two looked at Kuchiki Qianye. And Kuchiki Qianye, he just waved his hands and said nothing. He was still like a salted fish, just watching the people fighting in mid-air quietly. In the air, all kinds of crazy spiritual light beams spread in all directions. Simply put, Espada's defeat is inevitable. After all, as the strongest Shinigami in 1,000 years, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni even took action personally. He is an extremely powerful person with Raijin Jaka, the strongest and oldest fire-type Zanpakutō. As long as he takes action himself, Espada is nothing more than a chicken and a dog, vulnerable to a single blow. But if you want Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni to take action, he will not show up at all. On the Aizen side, 2 Espada members have been lost, and there is also Ikamaru Jin, who is always fishing for fish and is ready to stab him in the back at any time. Espada's situation has reached an extremely difficult point. Being completely wiped out is just a matter of time. Not to mention, now Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni has an even more terrifying aura. I heard that he has even gone into seclusion. This retreat lasted for several months. His strength has changed drastically again. His aura is even more powerful. Not to mention, the current Aizen is not in Karakura town at all. Instead, he had already headed to Hueco Mundo, preparing to turn the transferred real Karakura town into a king key. Go straight to Huanglong, directly destroy the spiritual king's palace, and rid the spiritual king of his 8 ministers. But with Aizen's strength, after fused with Byakuya, it is still impossible to speculate whether he can defeat Ichibai Haisub. After all, Ichibai Haisub, his Zanpakutō, but in the entire Soul Society. The oldest Zanpakutō is also the strongest rule-based sword. You can name everything in the world and give everything in the world a brand new name. And you can also deprive all things in the world of their names. As long as you are deprived of their names, you will lose half of your calendar area. If all the words are completely captured, then they lose half of their strength and their combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. And after they lose half of their power, if their names are taken away again, they may even have their names taken away entirely. So, even the strongest person, it will also turn into ashes and disappear in the world in an instant. Not to mention, Ichibai Haisub, his Bankai, can also control all the black in the world. As long as it is black, it can be completely controlled by him and draw power from it. In the original work, this ability of his is particularly pervert. It can even have an absolute impact on Yuabak. Although, in the end, Yamato was too reckless and was defeated by Yhwach on purpose. I wanted to see who was the final winner between Ichigo and Yhwach. As for the loser, it is to replace the Spirit King and become the new wedge of the 3 realms. 078. Aizen Bankai, create the King Key. It can be seen from this. Actually, Team 0, he is not a good man or woman, and the Ichibai Haisub among them is not as honest as they seem in the original work. Everything they do, it's all to create a wedge between the 3 realms. Let yourself be able to enjoy the happiness of eternal life. Even though they treat Ichigo with gentle words, they secretly have plans to make Kurosaki Ichigo into a human stick. Lord Qianye, behind him, Fei Jun and Rukia looked at Kuchiki Qianye, who suddenly stood up in front of him, with confused expressions on their faces. But Kuchiki Qianye just smiled slightly. Subsequently, with a wave of his hand, the figures of several people disappeared in Qianye Entertainment City in an instant. Bankai, the final kill, is activated instantly and goes directly to Soul Society. To deal with the Zero Squadron, Kuchiki Qianye had clearly sensed the malice of the Zero Squadron based on his breath sensing. After all, he is so uncontrollable and disrespectful of the existence of the Spiritual King. With Team Zero's methods, they will definitely take action and eliminate themselves. The reason why they didn't take action before, they just sat back and watched the fight, letting him and Aizen kill each other. Then, come out again and the fisherman will profit. How can it be? Think of this. The corners of Kuchiki Qianye's mouth raised slightly. Next moment, the few people left in Qianye Entertainment City disappeared directly, passed through the barrier between Soul Society and the real world, and headed directly to Soul Society. Now, outside world, a group of people looked solemn, and fierce battles broke out in the air from time to time, with blood flowing and flying from time to time. But under the baking heat of the flame cage, the blood evaporated in midair. It dries up before it even hits the ground. Now, many members of Espada are already in critical condition, with various huge wounds crisscrossing their bodies. Blood kept flowing along the wound. With a solemn expression, he looked at Godai, 13 in front of him, his eyes full of fear. Aizen is locked in a cage of fire. It was a severe blow to the morale of these people, who could have used 100% of their strength. Now, at best, we can only perform 80%. And all members of Godai, 13. Now, under the leadership of Yamamoto, Jinryusai Shigekuni, and the biggest boss Aizen has been sealed, everyone is highly motivated. Enough to unleash all your strength. In the air, it is filled with all kinds of colorful glow. Hitsugaya, Chur, Byakuya Kuchiki, and others all activated Bankai and kept confronting Espada members. Rear, Ikamaru Jin, on the other hand, was still fishing with the usual squinty smile on his face, squinting his eyes as he looked at Aizen shrouded in flames. He and Matsumoto Ranjaku. We met in Rukongai, and since we saw Matsumoto Ranjaku, part of his soul was taken away from his body due to Aizen persecution. He secretly made up his mind. I must be able to avenge Matsumoto Ranjaku, get back everything that was taken away from her. But Aizen is really too strong. He is so strong that it is unreasonable, even if he has been undercover for decades by Aizen's side. I only found 2 ways to crack his Kaika Suigetsu. The first is the own Ryatsu, which is higher than Aizen, which is undoubtedly impossible. After all, Aizen's own strength has reached the limit of Shinigami, and his Ryatsu is the pinnacle of Shinigami Ryatsu. It's impossible for anyone to surpass it. This is also the reason why Aizen is so powerful. Since childhood, Aizen has been standing at the top of his peers. Ryatsu was getting stronger even while sleeping. In a short period of time, he reached the limit of Shinigami, the peak of Shinigami. It is impossible to surpass Aizen. Even Yamamoto Genryu Sai Shigekuni will suffer a big loss under Aizen's Kaika Suigetsu. Yamamoto Genryu Sai Shigekuni, who is also the commander-in-chief. Although his Zanpakutō is earth-shattering, he is Soul Society's strongest fire-based battler. But, after all, Raijin Jaka is nothing more than a direct attack-type Zanpakutō. Facing a kid-type Zanpakutō like Kaika Suigetsu, he showed his weakness. Not to mention, even Yamamoto Genryu Sai Shigekuni is known as the strongest Shinigami in thousands of years. But his Ryatsu also failed to surpass Aizen. But, fortunately, there's a second way. Just touch Kaika Suigetsu's Zanpakutō directly to its blade or handle. You can temporarily release Kaika Suigetsu's ability. No longer fall into Aizen's illusion. Think of this. Ikamaru Jin's silver hair reflected bursts of firelight, and his eyes narrowed a little deeper. Quietly holding the shins in his hand tightly. Just find the opportunity. Contact with Aizen's Zanpakutō is enough to kill him in one hit. After all, Aizen, who has just obtained Hyaku, does not exceed the Shinigami limit too much, as long as he can kill Aizen instantly. So, nothing is a problem anymore. Matsumoto Ranjaku can also get back what was taken away from him. In the original work, Ikamaru Jin really succeeded. But Ikamaru Jin's plan to kill Aizen has long been known to Aizen. Aizen kept Ikamaru Jin here just to see when and what method Ikamaru Jin would use to kill him. This was also the thing he was most curious about. Otherwise, even if Aizen keeps Ikamaru Jin, what is he going to do with this young kid by his side? This is Aizen, absolute confidence in his own strength. Even though Ikamaru Jin stabbed him in an unexpected way, and Aizen didn't even frown at all. In the original work, Ikamaru Jin can be said to be a success or a failure. After all, although he successfully dispelled Kaika Suigetsu and gave Aizen a vicious backstab, but although the Aizen at that time was killed, Aizen with Hyaku can be resurrected infinitely, equivalent to the ultimate life form. At that time, Hyaku has successfully recognized Aizen as his master, even if his master receives any harm. Hyaku was able to restore it to its original state. It can also allow Aizen's strength to break through to a higher level again and truly achieve infinite evolution. Really, not long after, Espada above Karakura town, and not much left. Barragan, Stark, and others were also defeated by the Masked Legion, as well as the captains and vice-captains of Godai 13. As for other Espada members, he kept running and escaping, and Aizen Suk couldn't come out for a long time. It has caused them to lose confidence in this battle. If you don't run away now, are you going to wait here to die? Good. Espada has been defeated, and now the last enemy is Aizen. Be present. There was a smile on everyone's face. All kinds of eyes focused on the dead Aizen, who was trapped in a cage of flames, motionless, as if being roasted by the flames. But everyone present, there is no slightest contempt in my heart. Although the flames of Captain Yamamoto Genryu are so intense that they can even burn everything. B. Aizen himself. He is also a genuine commander-in-chief. How could he be killed directly because of such flames? 0. Please give me flowers. It seems impossible to imagine. Aizen, hand over Hijika. Yamamoto Jinrosai stroked his beard, tightened the cane in his hand, and stared at Aizen in midair. In crutches, its Soul Society's strongest fire-type Zanpakutō, Raijin Jaka. The existence of Hijika is an extremely important destabilizing factor for the entire three realms. Only to destroy it completely, or only by firmly controlling it in your hands, can you ensure the stability of Sanyuan. Even though the origin of the three realms is not a glorious thing. Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni's eyes remained cold, but the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Thousands of years ago, Yamamoto Jinrosai founded the killer organization Godai to eliminate the rebels and kill all enemies that are detrimental to Soul Society. But in the middle of the process, he also slowly understood the truth about the entire Soul Society, the current Soul Society, the present world, and Hueco Mundo, hell. They are all the sins of the 5 ancient nobles. They turned the world's savior, the spiritual king, into a human stick. Only then can we maintain the stability of the three realms and truly rule the entire three realms. Extremely sinful. In order for the Soul King not to resist and to act as a wedge with peace of mind, the founder of the Tsunayashiro family made suggestions and implemented them himself. He directly chopped the Spirit King into a human stick. So far, that's how the three realms came about. However, Yuan Liuzhai never thought of resisting before or now. After all, it is not easy for the entire three realms to maintain the current stability. If you kill the Spirit King, the three realms will be completely destroyed. It collapsed into what it was before, with no life or death, just a whole world gathered together. And after thousands of years of hard work, now Yamamoto Jinrosai has completely lost the idea of reform. He only wants to maintain the current peace within his own 1/3 of an acre. It's already not easy. At this time, the Aizen inside did not answer. Everyone present held the Zanpakutō in their hands tightly. Raijin Jaka, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni shouted loudly, and at the same time, the muscles on his body were ready to come out. Even though he was old, he still exuded an extremely strong aura of a strong man. Everyone, all eyes were focused on Captain Yamamoto, and they all clenched their fists. But in the air, Aizen remained expressionless. Next moment, the whole person was pierced directly, but there were no wounds left on his body. At the same time, the whole person, it also turned into phantoms and slowly dispersed. Not long after, everyone exclaimed, "Is the current Captain Yamamoto actually able to kill Aizen in one blow?" But next moment, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni, his forehead is covered with black lines. His eyes are extremely solemn. No, this is not Aizen at all, but a false phantom. All of them were fooled around by this Aizen. Oops. Soul Society is in danger. Soul Palace is in danger. At the same time, Soul Society. Realizing that his shadow had been wiped out, a man with brown hair and cold, arrogant eyes chuckled. His Kaika Suigetsu can already Bankai. Kaika Suigetsu world. Compared to a simple Kaika Suigetsu, it can even confuse the whole world. Even Uno Hanaretsu will not see anything fishy. Aizen Suk, looking at the dense buildings below, this is the real Karakura town. Although, he didn't know where all the people inside had gone. But for him, 100,000 souls were easily within reach. Soul Society, the most indispensable thing is Shinigami soul. Now, it's time to build the King Key. 079. Defeat Team 0 with one move. Kuchiki Qianye takes action. Pushing up his glasses, Aizen Suk smiled and gently stretched out his hand. Suddenly, the light ahead was blazing. But at this moment, in Karakura town, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni frowned, his long eyebrows gently fluttering, and in front of him, the blazing fire was like a cage. However, the ones in prison now are just themselves. From beginning to end, They were deceived, like monkeys in a circus, defeating Espada. When they felt that they were finally going to understand all this, they suddenly found that they were still in this ring. Aizen, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni, took a long breath and raised his head slightly. His thick beard and long eyebrows concealed his deep gaze. However, it can still be seen that he is helpless and angry. Are you so strong that even I can't see through you? After muttering, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni's back was bleak, but he immediately came to his senses. Captain, should we? Suifeng reacted, looked up at the disappeared traces of Aizen, frowned, and spoke urgently. But mid-sentence, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni interrupted him with a wave of his hand. It's really troublesome. Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni adjusted his mood, but his eyes were still deep. When he looked back, he saw that the members of Team 13 were all looking at the direction where Aizen disappeared, with expressions of 080 and shock. Hurry up and go back to Soul Society. Don't let that guy Aizen succeed. An order directly caused everyone to react and look away. When they looked at Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni, they saw a flash of light, and Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni disappeared on the spot. Come on, don't be stunned. Kaminura Sajin was the first to speak. His eyes narrowed slightly. I'll go first. You guys should hurry up and follow. After saying that, there was another stream of light. Immediately after Kaminura Sajin, there were several streams of light, all of which were exposed. The target this time is Soul Society. In Soul Society, Aizen floats in the air, and in front of him, a prototype condenses from the void. His expression was stern, his brows furrowed slightly, and he was arranging soul nourishment, but then he seemed to sense something. Aizen raised his head and looked from a distance, seeing several streams of light moving rapidly towards this side. Old man, it's pretty fast. After muttering, Aizen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, as if he had expected this. But after all, it was still a step too slow. Aizen floated, his pupils narrowed. He glanced at the people in Team 13 flying over and spoke coldly. Complete hypnosis. As soon as he said this sentence, a wave of ripples spread out all around, just like a stone dropped on the surface of a lake, spreading out ripples. The world at this time is the lake. A cold voice spoke, and suddenly the ripples spread. At the moment of contact, they instantly enveloped the 13th team that flew over. Yamamoto Jinryusai was the first to react, stopped his movements, felt the ripples spreading, and raised his Zanpakutō defense. But after all, it is slow. Aizen's strength has become so strong that even the old man Yamamoto Jinryusai has to use a lot of effort to distinguish it. How can he easily break through the illusion in front of him? Hateful. Yamamoto Jinryusai gritted his teeth and watched the scene in front of him change little by little. Aizen, you can't make it. Aizen listened to Yamamoto Jinryusai's roar in the distance and sneered. Let's come out of the illusion first. Aizen never thought that he could stop Yamamoto Jinryusai with this. After all, Yamamoto Jinryusai was very powerful. Although this mere illusion could trap him, it was only a matter of time before he was broken through. Withdrawing his gaze, Aizen continued to build, and time passed slowly. In front of Aizen, a huge key slowly took shape. The spreading fluctuations are getting stronger and stronger. Damn it, hurry up. Yamamoto Jinryusai roared and waved Zanpakutō vigorously in his hand. However, no matter what, the illusion in front of me cannot be waved away. Open it for me. The veins on Yamamoto Jinryusai's forehead popped out, and he felt the powerful power of the King Key that was about to take shape. The King Key is the key to the Spirit King's palace, and in the Spirit King's palace, the Spirit King sleeps. This world is also the Spirit King's contracted son. If the Spirit King's palace is opened rashly and the Spirit King is awakened, then this world will no longer exist. Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni's eyes widened, and he swung his sword over and over again, feeling the ripples spreading out, getting stronger and stronger. Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni kept swiping, but after swiping countless times, This illusion showed no signs of being chopped into pieces. Suddenly, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni, seemed to understand something. Did I just let it go? Thinking this, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni reacted, stopped waving, and gently closed his eyes. Wearing a long robe without any wind, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni, sat cross-legged in the sky. After a long time, he opened his eyes. The sword in his hand shone brightly, as if it had sensed Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni's call, and it buzzed. Standing up again, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni raised the corners of his mouth slightly and let out bursts of laughter. Then, the laughter became louder and louder. "What a great Aizen! You made such rapid progress. Even I was teased by you." With a murmur, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni, suddenly burst out with a powerful aura. "Everything and everything will return to ashes." After saying this sentence, the sword in his hand buzzed, and with a bang, the blade of the sword burst into flames. Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni's smile disappeared. His eyes were firm, and the flames on the sword reflected in his eyes. "Drink!" With a loud shout, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni waved his sword. Raijin Jaka. The moment he drew the sword, a tornado-shaped wall of flames spurted out instantly, like a fire dragon, and the sound of raging fire burning in the void was extremely violent. Stab! The sound of breaking through the sky came, and Aizen's illusion was directly cut open by Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni's sword. Aizen stopped. With another loud shout, Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni held Raijin Jaka and rushed directly towards Aizen, but it was already too late. Aizen floated in the air, and with the last soul imprint, suddenly, a powerful pressure suddenly burst out. The powerful ripples were like a hurricane, directly blowing away Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni, and all the remaining team members were blown away. Like a rootless grass swept away by the strong wind. "It's done." The corners of Aizen's mouth raised slightly, his eyes under his glasses shone with light, and he chuckled twice. Aizen stretched out his hand and waved, and suddenly a huge key appeared. "It's over." Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni opened his mouth wide and murmured, looking at the huge key, a little disappointed in his eyes. "Wang Jian has been created." But then, Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni reacted. "No, how could it be possible for you to achieve it so easily?" Yamamoto Jinryusai, Shigekuni kept yelling, and all the guard behind him rushed up. Originally, they were at the end of their tether after a series of battles, but there was nothing they could do. They were the closest to Aizen. However, Aizen didn't give any chance and pushed the king key with both hands. Kaka! With two blasts, the door to the Spirit King's palace was opened directly. As the door was opened, a burst of aura spread out, a desolate, powerful pressure spread out, overwhelming. This aura was so powerful that it directly covered the entire Soul Society. "Oh my God, Aizen!" Aizen opened the door to the Soul King's palace. In Soul Society, everyone looked at the sky in surprise, and some even trembled because of the powerful pressure of the Soul King Palace. The door is open. At Team Zero, Ichibai Haisub suddenly opened his eyes, felt the direction of the waves, and murmured softly, "It's really troublesome." As if sensing the fluctuation and knowing the cause and effect, Ichibai Haisub complained and rubbed his bald head. Wouldn't it be enough to just kill him? Behind him, Tenshiro of Korinji Temple held a piece of grass in his mouth, hugged his shoulders, wore a long-sleeved and short-sleeved haori, opened his upper body, and spoke softly. His eyes were cold, and when he said these words, he showed various cold glints from time to time. Another little devil who doesn't know how to live or die. "Do not worry." Hikifune Kiryu spoke with a smile, a face that always had a smile on it, with swirling lines on his cheeks, black camouflage on his lips, and two belts. "You must act more swiftly and don't make him feel uncomfortable." Okay. Ichibai Haisub stretched out his hand to stop everyone, then turned into a stream of light and disappeared instantly. "Hurry up too. Don't let outsiders break in and disturb the Soul King's rest." As soon as the words fell, the remaining people all turned into streams of light and disappeared instantly. Team Zero is dispatched. The strength of Team Zero exceeds that of the entire Godai 13, and they will never show up easily until a critical moment. Every member has also created significant things for Soul Society. But this time, all members of the Zero Division were dispatched, which further illustrates the seriousness of this matter. Yamamoto Jinryu Saishigakuni may be the strongest, but he is still not good enough in front of the Zero Division. Strong pressure came over. Aizen 1.5 calmed down, frowned, and looked into the distance. "Oh, are here." Pushing up his glasses, Aizen chuckled twice. "Isn't it just a stab in the sky to mobilize the troops like this?" After muttering, Aizen laughed twice, and the gentleness in his eyes instantly disappeared and turned into a strong fighting spirit. "Well, since we're here, let's have a good fight." The momentum exploded, and Aizen instantly rose into the sky and rushed directly towards the Zero Squadron. Ichibai Haisub was at the front, his rosary beads and beard grinning. When he saw Aizen rushing up, Ichibai Haisub laughed twice. "Boy, you are looking for death." Ichibai Haisub yelled. "Bankai, Hakubi Ikamanji." The White Pen 1 character is the evolution of Zanpakutō, who was single long before Bankai appeared in the world. It can erase people's names and carve new names. Ichibai Haisub stretched out his fingers and wrote 2 big characters in the air, Black Ant turning his fingers into palms. He faced Aizen, cowardly, but just as the word Black Ant was typed, suddenly a cold voice was heard. That's 11th, decorated with thunder and lightning. A bolt of lightning directly shattered the words Black Ant. Ichibai Haisub was stunned and looked up, only to see Kuchiki Qianye floating in the sky in front of him. 080. 2 swords turned the tide of the battle and cut off all the rules. "Hey!" Kuchiki Qianye raised the corners of his mouth and laughed. His robes covering his whole body were windless. "Old bald donkey, let me meet you." With just one sentence spoken, Ichibai Haisub's defense was immediately broken. "Old bald donkey? You brat. Who are you scolding here?" Kuchiki Qianye stood with his hands behind his hands, floating in the air, listening to Ichibai Haisub's loud shouts, and smiled slightly. "I'll scold anyone who is bald." Ichibai Haisub was so angry that he was itching his teeth, but his goal this time was to stop Aizen. If necessary, it was not impossible to kill him. With a cold snort, Ichibai Haisub gritted his teeth and spoke. "I won't argue with you now. After I finish handling the matter, I will let you know the consequences of messing with me." Kuchiki Qianye put his hands behind his hands and clicked his tongue when he heard Ichibai Haisub say this. "Oh, that's really unlucky. I'm here and you can't get through it." This sentence directly aroused Ichibai Haisub's nerves. Suddenly, Ichibai Haisub's eyes were blood red and he entered a fighting state. "In this case, don't blame me for being ruthless." After saying that, Ichibai Haisub roared, and his whole body suddenly exploded. He entered a fighting state, and his aura was completely different from the 2 before. "You go and deal with Aizen. I'll hold this kid back." Ichibai Haisub spoke with a cold snort, holding a letter in his hand and standing in the air. In front of him, Kuchiki Qianye gently clasped his hands with a relaxed expression, not paying attention to Ichibai Haisub at all. This arrogant look made Ichibai Haisub even more unhappy. 06 Huh? Kid, let me teach you how to respect your elders." Ichibai Haisub shouted and rushed forward instantly, waving a word in his hand. "Cut the name, but not the flesh." With a loud shout, the tip of the brush in his hand turned directly into a blade, and suddenly the air became quiet. Ichibai Haisub seemed to have stopped moving and froze in midair. Kuchiki Qianye was facing Ichibai Haisub. Seeing him like this, he had already seen what Ichibai Haisub was thinking. Interesting. He stretched out his right hand, pointed it at Ichibai Haisub, and opened his lips lightly. Had no 31 red fire cannon. As soon as he said one sentence, a huge fireball appeared in his palm. In the void, bursts of chanting sounds sounded. Ichibai Haisub was stunned. Ichibai Haisub had also heard of the red fire cannon, but generally before casting a spell, he had to chant continuously, and at the same time it required a lot of energy. After looking at Kuchiki Qianye for a long time, Ichibai Haisub seemed to come to his senses. Want to kill me with one blow? You're still too young. After finishing speaking, there was another loud shout. However, before this roar came out, I could only hear the hazy, singing voice in the void, and I became more and more awake. Void chant. Ichibai Haisub reacted, widened his eyes, and looked around in confusion. How can it be? It consumes so much you're going to die? In the void, the singing voice is faster. O king, masks of flesh and blood, all things that flutter high and bear the name of mankind, heat and strife, rolling southward across the sea, march forward. The sound sounded over and over again, and the fireball in Kuchiki Qianye's hand became bigger and bigger. After a long time, the chanting sound suddenly stopped. Looking at Kuchiki Qianye again, the fireball in the palm of his hand has already covered the sky and the sun. It can't stand the high temperature, even though it is far away. Go ahead. Kuchiki Qianye spoke softly, his voice as calm as waves, without any ripples. Such a powerful attack, but so casual. The huge fireball flew directly over. Ichibai Haisub still wanted to block it, and immediately put the ikemanji in his hand in front of him. However, as the fireball got closer and closer, Ichibai Haisub found that it could not be blocked at all. In a hurry, Ichibai Haisub reacted and flew upwards instantly. If you can activate such a big fireball, you probably won't be able to do it now. Thinking like this, Ichibai Haisub calmed down and rushed forward. But as soon as he rushed forward, Ichibai Haisub was stunned. In the void, the chanting voice started up again, and soon after, the fireball in Kuchiki Qianye's hand condensed again, and a fireball with the same power as before appeared. Boom! Another shot. Everyone in Ichibai Haisub was dumbfounded. Such fireballs came out so easily, and two of them came out after just one twist. Ichibai Haisub's eyes widened, but then there was a third one. The fireballs seemed to be free of charge, one after another directly surrounding Ichibai Haisub. Not good. When Ichibai Haisub reacted, there were already fireballs in all directions. This kid is better than he looks. Thinking in his mind, Ichibai Haisub waved a word in his hand. With a loud roar and a wave of words, those fireballs seemed to have solidified. Erase. As soon as the two words came out, the fireball trembled, seeming to have lost its temperature and light. After taking a long breath, Ichibai Haisub did not dare to neglect. Missed. As soon as these two words were typed, all the destroying balls immediately dissipated. Good boy, you are really good. Ichibai Haisub let out a long breath, and before the fog dissipated, he waved the letter in his hand again. Erase. The target this time is Kuchiki Qianye. And after typing these two words, Kuchiki Qianye was immediately enveloped. However, Kuchiki Qianye, from beginning to end, stood there without moving, looking at Ichibai Haisub as if he were looking at an actor who was performing, with no sadness or joy in his expression, no emotion at all. Ikemanji's Zanpakutō is very powerful. Killing the name, but not the flesh, is equivalent to the rules of the world, erasing the old rules and putting in a new one. This kind of rules-based weapon, as long as it launches an attack and is shrouded in rules, it will be over. Ichibai Haisub's eyes all turned white, and he had murderous intentions. Go to hell, kid. Ichibai Haisub was extremely fast and rushed forward instantly. O dark night, yo everlasting darkness, come here. Meet everyone and drink it. Drink it, and life will drift away. The road to hell is the same, with flowers blooming. Wine and food are dyed black wherever they are. Split into 8 parts, roasted into pitch black with pitch black flames. Eat it up quickly, and what is left are the white bones. Set up a monument for him and mourn for him, in order to prevent him from being reborn again. Become our sacrifice again. After finishing chanting, he waved a word in his hand, and suddenly, the whole body was shrouded in black, completely covering Kuchiki Qianye. Even now, are you still not moving? Ichibai Haisube's eyes were all white, and he sneered. Just right, then go to hell. After saying this, Ichibai Haisube was about to control the darkness and turn Kuchiki Qianye's flesh and blood skeleton. But at this moment, only heard, in the middle of darkness, heaven breaks all things. After speaking these 4 words in a calm and quiet tone, Dr. Ichibai was stunned. Immediately afterwards, I saw only a flash of light and a blade of light cutting through the darkness. Boom! In an instant, the darkness exploded. How can it be? Ichibai Haisube's eyes were about to burst, his mouth was wide open, and his eyes were full of disbelief. In the middle of the darkness, Kuchiki Qianye stood there, still with a calm expression, but this time he was holding a Zanpakutō in his right hand. The other hand slowly stretched out. Hats 58 Koton Lan as the voice fell. Strong winds suddenly rose all around, and a huge whirlwind swept directly over Haisube, Ebing Yoke. But it's not over yet. Kuchiki Qianye continued to speak. Hats 67 thunder dispersions. After saying this, mist suddenly filled the air in front of Ichibai Haisube. In the mist, electric sparks crackled, mixed with the hurricane that had just formed. Ichibai Haisube was shocked. I can actually activate Kid continuously. However, before the shout could be finished, Kuchiki Qianye finally started to move. With a flash of light, Kuchiki Qianye disappeared on the spot. Ichibai Haisube was tired of fighting these things when he saw a flash of cold light. $37. Cut off the rules, and everything will be cut off. Kuchiki Qianye spoke coldly and slashed with his knife. This sword seemed to be able to cut through the void and split the heaven and earth. Ichibai Haisube couldn't react. He could only stare blankly at Kuchiki Qianye's knife falling. At this moment, time was very slow. It's so slow that even breathing is extremely long. Seeing it, the blade was about to chop off. "Boss, be careful." 2 anxious shouts suddenly came out, followed by a flash of light. Naija Oue and Shutara Senjimaru appeared instantly and pulled away Ichibai Haisube. However, Kuchiki Qianye's knife was too fast. Even if they tried their best to rescue Ichibai Haisube, Shutara Senjimaru could not escape. Still touch the world. With a bang, Shutara Senjimaru's hand was cut off in 3 pieces. Shutara took the Senju pill and screamed in pain. Looking back, Kuchiki Qianye stood there holding Tian Duan Wanxiang. "I told you, you can't get through as long as I'm here." Kuchiki Qianye spoke coldly and stood motionless. Originally, excluding Ichibai Haisube, the other 4-0 Division members had already put Aizen in a deadlock. But until Kuchiki Qianye suddenly came out and directly changed the situation of the battle. It can even be said that Kuchiki Qianye defeated the entire team, career team. Hateful. Ichibai Haisube reacted and took a long breath. Although he didn't want to admit it, it was indeed the case. They were defeated. From the beginning of the battle until now, Kuchiki Qianye has only used his sword twice. Not far away, everyone in Team 13 was speechless in surprise. Kuchiki Qianye defeated Team 0 with his own strength. What a powerful strength this is. On the other side, behind Kuchiki Qianye, Aizen looked at Kuchiki Qianye quietly. His face no longer showed the ease of strategizing, but was full of complexity. Just because Kuchiki Qianye is so awesome. Such a partner is really dangerous. Aizen murmured. 081, the strongest, cutting off order with 1 sword after muttering. Aizen frowned and continued to press the king key. Everyone in Team 0 looked at Aizen's movements and became nervous. No, if the Soul King's palace is opened, if the Soul King is killed by that guy Aizen. Shutara Senjimaru frowned, and his words were full of anxiety. Well, Ichibai Haisube gritted his teeth and looked at Aizen with wide eyes. Even his beard and eyebrows were fluttering because of nervousness. In front of him, Kuchiki Qianye stood in the air with some amusement in his eyes, but more importantly, boredom. "I thought you were very powerful and could impress me." Speaking coldly, Kuchiki Qianye snorted. "What a pity, that means I have to stop you." Kuchiki Qianye's words were cold, and his hair was flying slightly. Otherwise, you will definitely not survive now. After finishing speaking, Kuchiki Qianye laughed twice, and his laughter was hearty and hearty, but the Zero Squadron in front of him was at a loss. Boss! Tenshiro of Kirin Temple gritted his teeth and spoke. Looking at Kuchiki Qianye's appearance, he spat. Otherwise, let's fight him. No, calm down. Ichibai Haisub gently stopped Kirinji Tenshiro and looked up at Kuchiki Qianye, who was blocking him. He was obviously just one person, but the power in this kid was so strong that he could block them out in one go. Behind him, Aizen continued to move until, in the void, the door to the Soul King's palace opened. Boom! A loud noise immediately made these people react. Not good. Ichibai Haisub spoke coldly, and when he saw the open door of Soul King Palace, he became furious. No matter what. Charge! Ikamanji! Ichibai Haisub roared and rushed forward instantly, like a flying cannonball. Regardless of Kuchiki Qianye floating in the air, Ichibai Haisub rushed forward. We must stop Aizen at all costs, otherwise the world will be over. Yes, boss. The rest of the Zero Squadron reacted and rushed directly to Shangdue. 5 streams of light went straight to Aizen. In the distance, Yamamoto, Jinryusai Shigekuni, and others who had been watching the battle finally came to their senses. Behind them, these subordinates reacted and looked at Kuchiki Qianye floating in the sky not far away, and then at the Zero Squadron rushing up. After a long time, Yamamoto, Jinryusai Shigekuni took on the job. After all, it's a matter for our entire 3 realms. Yamamoto, Jinryusai Shigekuni murmured, his eyes filled with disappointment. He is the strongest among the Shinigami, and he thought he could stop Aizen, but until he saw Aizen's current strength, Yamamoto, Jinryusai Shigekuni was shaken. Later, the Zero Squadron appeared, and these were all groundbreaking characters.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.